Guys, that's true. We are a quarter of 1,000 episodes in. I like when
Wow.
people, I like when people talk about that. They use like a quarter for
Yeah.
stuff to describe a number.
Don't make
A
me do
quarter
math.
of the century there.
Just say the number. Don't make me.
This company was bought for $250 million. I'm like, you just wanted to say billion. You could have said 250.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But you just wanted to say billion.
Billion with a B sounds nice.
It's a
Does
baller move. That
Yeah.
billion, you know.
We are at a
Baller
quarter
move.
thousand episodes into this show. I know that Jeff was able to return last week, which is why I wasn't here. I didn't want to see his face. Didn't want to hear his voice. Didn't even want to see it. No, I'm kidding.
The ongoing rivalry continues.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Between two guys who both love music and video games and movies. And yeah, we
Right.
totally don't get along.
Yeah.
Even bigger than the Red Sox and Yankees.
Oh man, that
Even
rivalry
bigger.
is nothing to what we've
Nothing.
got going on. But yeah, so I'm assuming Jeff is out there doing more music stuff. Which, by the way, he gives us previews sometimes of his early music. Guys,
Mhm.
dude's good. Don't tell him I said this.
making real music.
Yeah.
You know?
Pretty
Hey,
good.
you and
Old
Todd
man.
Howard both pulling out because he did that reference.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
He did. He was
Little
compensating
tiny-
for his
Little tiny
yeah.
Todd at the Game Awards, just little.
I
little-
no wonder we learned this week why Todd's always on
Tiny
a stage
Todd.
alone. We did learn this week because
Yeah.
I didn't know he was that small. I think
Yeah.
Well-
maybe in some dev diaries, maybe we saw kind of some
Yeah.
height differences sometimes, but
It's like
think
him
when
and
you put him right
DeSantis
next
both
to-
wearing shoe lifts, you know?
when you put him right next to Troy Baker, like
Who
that guy's like
is
6
really
foot
tall.
4, you know?
I
Yeah,
didn't
it's
know
like
he was that tall.
Yeah, he's
yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, little
He's
tiny
really-
Todd Howard.
You know, it's
Tiny
actually
Todd
perfect
Howard.
timing with Christmas, Tiny Tim and all that. Tiny Tim,
Aw,
Tiny
Tiny
Todd.
Todd.
You know, so
Tiny
yeah,
Todd,
it makes sense. You know,
sure,
it's
yeah.
yeah.
You're like,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
like, hey, you boy, what day is it? It's Indiana Jones Day.
Yeah.
Yay!
He throws his fedora in the air. Yippee!
Run, fetch me my whip, boy. All right,
Oh
so
my
we've got a lot of Game Award stuff to talk about. Oh, hang on, my music just started playing. So I've got
music.
I've
Just
got
because.
an ad open or an article open and an ad started playing.
Don't you love when that happens?
It's like Hyundai Santa Fe. Blah. I was like, all right,
no.
Yeah.
easy. Okay. So we've got a lot of Game Award stuff to talk about, and we can also circle back on stuff we're playing. I don't know about you guys, but I'm playing a bunch of stuff that didn't necessarily come out this week, but I'm still having a lot of fun with some games that'll be fun to touch base on. And then yeah, there's a lot to respond to. I know none of us were really available to do a live response. Also, who cares? There's plenty of live reactors out there.
It'd been like 4 hours too. So
It's a long time.
it's
It's
a
a long
long
time.
live stream.
Although
Yeah.
I will say, we've done a few live reactions together before, and when it is something that like the Onimusha orbs or something
Yeah.
or like the Witcher moment where you realize this is a Witcher game, like whatever that moment is, it is exciting to have someone else there. Like,
Yeah.
Kyle, you had a
Yeah.
little people in person.
Yeah,
So-
I had pizza, which I hadn't had in a long time, and it tore me up, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
Are you just avoiding it just because, or like
I
lactose
have
intolerant,
a very sensitive stomach,
Okay.
and I'm old now, so pizza
Sure.
is a young man's game.
Yeah, whatever was sensitive before, as you get into your 30s, especially when you get to 40, it's just like, it's more now. Whatever it was,
it's my life is just a popping acid reflux medication.
Sure,
That's my
sure.
whole existence. Yeah.
I wasn't sure because I'm like
I am
selectively lactose
I'm
intolerant.
very
like,
lactose intolerant, but
Okay.
like I could have like cheese on a burger, but like you turn it into like cheese
Whole-
soup, I'm probably gonna have a
Yeah.
hard time.
yeah,
And like
yeah.
a big pizza with lots of cheese on it, it's tough out there.
That's fair.
Tough
That's
out
totally
there
fair.
wanting bread and cheese all the time.
Speaking
Which
of
is
like
delicious.
really unhealthy
Yeah.
food, I got breakfast this morning with a couple of friends in town, and went to a chain. You probably have it where you are for sure, Kyle. Maybe you too, Dan. It's called the Snooze Eatery.
Snooze is great, yeah.
No.
And,
great
I don't
breakfast
have that
spot.
out here.
They have they've got a bunch of really good food. It's a good breakfast place.
Mm.
But what I like is their Spuds Deluxe, where you actually get they're really good hash browns, and then they put eggs on top with cheese, and you pick two kinds of meat. So I got pulled pork and bacon on top. So it was like a almost like a hash brown casserole that I told them what to put in it.
Mhm.
It was, dude, it's so good. And
Yeah.
it's just so much sodium and fat. I loved it so much. It was
Yeah.
it's so good.
Enough to make you feel lethargic for the rest of the day. You know what?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the price, and I'm paying.
Yeah, we met like at 7 this morning, and I would say by 8:30 I was done for the day. I was
Yeah.
like, that's
Yeah.
it. I'm done.
Hibernation time at that point, right?
Yeah, totally. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about stuff we're currently playing. It looks like the notes I gave you guys last week might have been for games that actually came out during this past week. I could be wrong. Like the Power Rangers game, I did think came out after you guys recorded, but I think I listed it. Did I list it for you guys?
I don't
remember that being on there.
I don't remember being on there either. Yeah, I don't know.
So that's
I know,
one
like
that's
we
out
hadn't really
that's
played
notable.
anything. But...
Yeah, the Power Rangers game is out, and people are.
Yeah.
I know Jeff's enjoying it. A lot of folks out there are enjoying that one. It's got like a solid 7 out of 10 average across most review outlets. So seems like a pretty fun retro.
You didn't have Power Rangers on there.
Oh, I didn't. Okay.
It looks cool.
Stuff.
I want to pick it up. I don't have a big Power Rangers affinity, so like $30 is steep for me. But I love side scrollers.
Yeah,
so you can see the Dragon Zord like poking right there.
And like I know enough, I was alive in the '90s, so like I know enough about it where I'm like, yeah, I get what's going on screen here, and I'm in. Like I really want to play this game, but like $30 just is a little steep right now.
Yeah, it is a little steep. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, especially when like Streets of Rage 4, which is like the best of these types of games, I think came out at like 24. So I know it's only like $5. We're talking.
How much was Shredder's Revenge?
It was on.
I think it was 20. I think that was $25 as well. But like I think,
okay.
I think it came out on Game Pass like immediately. So like you could
put it on Game Pass, and I'm there day one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
pick up the phone, Power Rangers. Get on Game Pass. Yeah.
That's right. Even though Xbox is a dying brand, from what I'm told. Yeah, that's what I hear.
Let's check Google on that one.
Yeah. Is Xbox that? It depends on how you phrase the question. Google will confirm whatever it is you want.
Yeah, right. I can manipulate the keywords to get the answer I'm looking for.
I can find.
Well, it has that AI overview now, right? So the AI is just going to tell us whatever we want to hear, right? I mean,
we'll talk about this with the new Witcher game announcement too, but because I did this, Kyle, as we were chatting a little bit about this in our group chat. But I was like, I'm pretty sure Ciri can't be a Witcher, but maybe it was more like just for that sake of that story and that time she couldn't. I was having trouble remembering like what were the roadblocks. So I searched, why can't Ciri be a Witcher? And there's tons of stuff about like people mad about this. She can't be a Witcher and all these reasons. And then I searched, well, can Ciri be a Witcher? And then all the results flipped, and it was like she totally can. And here's how. Like
that's so funny. Yeah, that's super hilarious. Yeah. And also like. We all played the third game, right? One of the endings is she becomes a Witcher. That is one of the endings.
Wait, is there? Oh, I didn't do the DLC. So is that part of the DLC?
No, that's not. That's one of the original endings from the vanilla game.
The series storyline really does conclude at the end of the main game.
The insinuation becomes a Witcher. She becomes a monster hunter. I don't think she like takes. You don't watch her take potions.
There is something about her like following his path, but again, mild spoilers for a 9-year-old game. Yeah, 9.5-year-old game. That she's got Elder Blood, which gives her so much better powers than a Witcher. Sorry, like she could demolish all, like she does actually. She like demolishes.
I know we're not talking about it right now, but since we're already on the subject, I'm getting vibes that she's starting her own school and she's gonna have a different type of method of witchering. That's what I think.
They said they're gonna explain it to us. They're gonna show us her experience. I'm there. So we'll talk about.
Well, they've also been building up towards this. That's what's been the point, right? That's what they said. That this whole thing has been building towards Ciri.
They've dropped plenty of hints that like it was gonna be Ciri.
Anyone who's mad that she's the lead is just
you weren't paying attention. That's my thoughts. You weren't paying attention.
I don't care about their.
Well, also, I don't want to do the tired thing because we've brought it up so many times. But you know what also is the issue, Tim and Kyle. You know what the issue is.
Yes, there's issues aplenty.
Oh, it's
same issue with Galactalast. I can't even.
The
say
issue with that game is the title's bad, but
Intergalactic.
That's the issue.
Intergalactic of Us. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Intergalactic of Us.
Same thing with that. Yes,
Yeah.
But this is exciting though.
As far as games that we are currently playing, Dan, I know last week the Fantasian Neo Dimension came out, and you hadn't had a chance to play it yet, right? When you recorded last week.
I should have the case lying around because I like to be like case.
But you've got it now. What are you playing it on? And give me some of your thoughts on this surprisingly good mobile game that now makes sounds like a good console platform game.
So before we do all that, Tim, we have to go back to the beginning, all right? So Sakaguchi was
Lord.
born.
We have a lot to talk about, Dan. Come on.
Sakaguchi was born in
1989.
Just tell me how the graphics look and how the buttons work, and let's keep moving.
Can you press the buttons? Yeah, so like you said, it was originally a game that was trapped on Apple Arcade, unfortunately. And I remember at that time thinking, like, oh man, like this, this is cool, but yeah, this is a bummer. I don't want to play this on my phone. And now it's finally on consoles. I'm pretty sure it's just like on everything. It's on Xbox. I have it on PlayStation 5. I bought the physical edition off of Square Enix's website because they collabed with Miss Walker to publish it to everything. So like, hey, that's awesome. Shout out to Square like working with Sakaguchi. Because obviously Sakaguchi worked there, the creator of Final Fantasy, and no longer does. So it's cool that they're still like, yes, exactly. But yeah, I have it for PS5. Yeah, so it is a mobile game. So think of like taking a mobile game, even if it is a bit higher budget than what you would normally think, or something that's not just a match 3 whatever game, and you're blowing it up on a TV. It's not going to look as good as like a 7 Rebirth or a Metaphor or anything like that. But what it makes up for is charm, and the charm is the dioramas, the backgrounds, which we have discussed. So for anyone who hasn't heard those conversations, all of the backgrounds in this game were handmade. They're dioramas, physical dioramas that were handmade by a person. And the buildings, all the little things like barrels, and then like a thing of fruit or something. Like everything was all handmade. It's all models, and they used. I think I was watching a YouTube video. I think they used like a drone to fly around the dioramas and scan every angle of them, and then obviously they upload that into computer software. And then they do their, bleep bloop and whatever magic sorcery stuff. And yeah, and it works really well. So because like all the characters in the game are 3D video game characters. They're all not 3D model, like handmade models. So the visuals combine really well. I think it works really well. Yeah, again, I think that idea is really unique. I can't think of a game that's done something like that.
No,
that's
really cool.
Not an RPG game like that. The only one I've played that uses dioramas that's recent, and by the way, it's cozy AF and really, it's just awesome, called Tiny Glade, and that's where you actually are building diorama castles, like in a fantasy type setting. It's I think it's only on Steam. That's all it is. You're not trying to like. There's not a campaign. There's not a story. It's just like sweet music, and so. Yeah. But it's so unique. There's a reason why very few games have done it. Like it's probably not easy graphical style to pull off.
Is that game like did they make all the like models and then they scan them in, or
I don't know. All I know is that like you can like click and drag, and then like you can create walls and buildings, and everything just kind of pops up. Like it's almost like watery the way it pops up, but then and all these little details come up alongside it. It's just super cute. It's just
it is. I dabbled a little bit. I was watching somebody stream it, and I was like, "This is really." I like forgot about it, and then I like bought it. But yeah, just that alone in this game, I think, is just something that's really endearing and really cool and very unique.
It reminds me of when Octopath Traveler came out. It's like nothing else looks like this. What is this? It's got that vibe
exactly. It like created like a whole new thing. Like I if other developers have the means and the passion and time to do something like this, I think doing that type of thing or even their own take on it, like I don't know what would be something besides diorama, but like I don't know, just something unique, just kind of add to the whole thing. But yeah, so made by Miss Walker. For anybody who doesn't know who that is, they made what was it, Blue Dragon and Lost Odyssey back on Xbox 360.
Love those games. Fantastic games. Xbox at one point had a lot of great JRPGs that no one cared about.
They went for it for a minute there, didn't they?
Really fun to think about. Yeah,
they went for it.
They really did. Fantastic games. Yeah, they're really
good. Which shame on me. I mean, because I didn't have a 360. I've actually never played those.
I don't think they ever re-released Lost Odyssey.
No,
I don't think they did. Blue Dragon.
None of their games.
None
of their games they've never re-released. They're still available digitally, so I have them on
Akira Toriyama is dead. Bring us Blue Dragon. Come on.
Yeah.
For his legacy. Do it.
Come
for
on.
Him.
Do it.
Even though I prefer the other one, the one where you're
Lost
the immortal.
Odyssey.
Yeah, Lost Odyssey. That game is so good. But I love both of those games. I think they're fantastic.
Great so studio. It's Yeah, and because this is a small studio. It's not a huge studio. I guess they would qualify as an indie, I would think.
Yeah, cool.
So, But yeah, the story is basically there's this stuff called bacteria, which is machine bacteria, basically. It's just the two words combined, machine and bacteria. But it's like infecting the world. It's like almost like these like white poofy like machine-like things that are starting to infest the world. And there's like this like poisonous purple looking stuff like coming out of it. And there's like this like opening in the sky, and all of that stuff is like pouring out of it and slowly just like infecting the world. And there's this evil villain called was it Mal what the hell is his name? Something the Malevolent. What the hell is his first name? He's basically just like a god-like character that nobody.
Mesmer the Impaler, this guy?
Yes, basically. Yeah. Mez the Malevolent, I can't even say. But yeah, like, so I don't actually really know what his deal is yet. He has popped up a couple times. So like the villain pops up pretty early. It's not one of those like, oh, we don't see him for like 30 hours. Like he's popped up. And he is mysterious, but like things happen when he pops up, because we've gotten in a fight with him a couple of times, and something happens with there's these items called divine artifacts that clearly have some kind of power to them, and some kind of reaction seems to happen with them, and he's like, oh, interesting. He finds everything interesting. So but yeah, the combat is actually very Final Fantasy X like. So at the bottom you have all the character portraits, and you got the little timeline of whose turn is coming up next, which is really, really cool. So you see the order of everything. And the main unique thing is the way you target enemies on the screen. So on the phone, you'd be using your finger and kind of dragging the line, which not probably, I did play it, so it was cool. You'd kind of just drag it around. But obviously you're using a controller, so you're using the analog sticks instead. But certain abilities allow you to like curve your path, so you're trying to hit as many enemies as possible. Is depending on their placement on the battlefield. So almost like your wanted style, curving the bullet, trying to get as many friggin' enemies as you can.
Kind of fun.
Yeah, that's cool. So that's pretty cool. And then there's AoE attacks too. So like if they're kind of grouped close enough together, you can kind of get them all. But it's more the curving of stuff that then like fires in like a path that's really cool. Yeah. So you really like can take your time with it, and if you just nudge a little bit, you can kind of get it. Because if you go too fast, you're gonna pass by like that third enemy. But if you like actually are a little patient, you can maybe get them because they're close enough. But you're taking time with it. So I think that's really fun. I think that's really cool. It adds a little extra layer of interacting with the combat. Oh, and the console version has voice acting. So
added, right? It didn't before, or
originally didn't.
Okay.
No voice acting. Sakaguchi did not want voice acting, and apparently USP, director of Final Fantasy 14 and 16, he encouraged Sakaguchi. He's like, hey, listen, like I get you, buddy, but you
got a little bit of budget here, a
little bit of budget. You got a little bit of money, so you should do some voice acting. And then and Sakaguchi was like, yeah, you know what, USP was right. I'm actually glad that we added the voice acting, and it's actually pretty solid.
Wasn't Sakaguchi? Didn't he make it sound? And this is more for Tim. Didn't he say that like he wanted to make a game like Final Fantasy VI? Wasn't that like the inspiration for this?
Oh,
is that
what he said for this? I love that.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure I remember recently another podcast talking about that. They had brought it up.
I know he's
or at least that time or that era of RPG.
Okay. I mean, I'm not remembering. I'm trying to think. I'm not remembering a quote of him mentioning 6, but this does feel definitely like, as far as like, I think the writing is really nice. There's definitely some silliness going. There's definitely some silly moments of like, so there's this character that pops up and like is like pissed off at your main character because like he stood her up. So like it kind of just like pops back up how she's all like moody and like about him standing her up, but like they're also doing the typical like amnesia thing. So like he's got amnesia, and that happens like basically right in the beginning. So that kind of like plays into that too. But it kind of lends just for a bit of humor, because it's like, well, lady, like relax. He had amnesia, like he didn't remember the thing. So
it's either your village gets burned down and you're the only survivor, or you have amnesia. Those are two of the key.
Sometimes it's both.
Sometimes it's both. And usually you need a parent to die. Sometimes both. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the triple threat. Yeah.
The triple threat. Let me ask you this, Dan, as I'm looking at this game a little bit too. of course, it looks gorgeous and it's got a good pedigree, and you're telling me that it's gonna. I remember trying it really briefly on mobile and then being like, "What am I doing?" So
yeah.
But it's $50. Like,
right, yeah.
That's overpriced, right? Or am I not giving it enough credit? $50 seems like a lot.
I mean, for me, I was fine with spending that. Mm-hmm. I'm enjoying it a lot. And especially with the voice acting, because it's solid. Like if the voice acting was like bad, I'd probably just turn it off, which you can do. You can turn it on and off. So if you're just somebody who wants to read the dialogue, you can do that. But like to me, it's adding that extra immersion of like, oh, this voice acting is really solid. And like the story, it seems really interesting. There is a bit of a mystery there. Like what is the deal with this Macteria? Like why is this random god guy just showing up and be like, this is here for a purpose and you don't understand? It's like, well, I mean, you're infecting the world, so what purpose could there really possibly be? So it's like what's really the deal here? But yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, 50 is a lot. It's your typical like Square Enix tax thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like this probably normally would have been maybe like $30, but like, you know, because there's that little bit of extra polish and shine to it, and the voice acting probably cranked it up to 50. So, yeah, I would say if, you know, it depends on the person. So for me, I was.
I think a similar discussion popped up around Dragon Quest 3 as well, HD, when it came out. Not that it doesn't deserve like the price tag, but like it is a retro style game that's a throwback. You know, weirdly enough, I think what is the one that we were Octopath, like never kind of got that criticism for whatever reason. But I can't see some people like looking at that art style and being like, this is a $30 game, even though I don't know if I always agree. It's case by case, you know?
Yeah.
But
well, it's like their brain just like thinks it's in. I think maybe like because modern times they're just like, well, look at it's a pixel, so it's indie. It's an indie game. It shouldn't be. You know, and it's like, well, that's kind of
self-identifiers for sure. Yeah, it is. You know, for this one though, it is a mobile game.
That's what I was gonna say.
It is kind of like you're like, what? I wonder how much it was when it came out on Apple.
I mean, it was part of Apple Arcade.
So it was free.
I don't actually know.
Oh, so it's probably hard to. It's like saying how much.
Might have been 20. Like if you just bought it straight up.
Maybe,
I don't actually remember. And it was actually released in 2 parts. So there was the first part, and then at some time later they released.
Everyone loves a part 1. You know what I mean?
Everyone part 1. Yeah.
Everyone wants part 1.
Thanks, Harry Potter, for starting this mess.
Yeah, jeez.
Good job, Harry
Book
Potter.
7, part 1. Get out of here.
Jesus.
Too much. But yeah, I mean, this is obviously the whole thing. So
yeah.
I'm trying to think of anything else. The music. So music also Uematsu.
Yeah,
the genius.
So there's good pedigree all around.
Music, right? You can tag.
Yeah, that's another thing they added. So it's not like you're choosing the songs. It basically gives you what's on there. Final Fantasy 14. Was it Endwalker and Dawn Trail, which were the last 2 expansions, and it basically just plays like whatever the main battle theme is. There's 7 Remake. There's Rebirth, Pixel Remaster, and what's the last one? I can't remember what the last one is. But yeah, it's whatever like the main battle theme is, and it'll just like put it in that scene. So that's pretty fun addition too.
Sounds like just a feel good package for sure.
Yeah, I will say. So I have one criticism, which unfortunately is pertaining to the music. Unfortunately, some of the songs not that great. Not that great. Some of them kind of weird. There's actually I forgot to mention this. There's this fun turn off battle mechanic where a lot of these newer RPGs or these remasters and stuff they're releasing. Hey, want to turn off the battles? Just hit whatever and you turn off the battles. In this game, it's built in where there's this device that you have, and when you turn it on, anytime you would have run into a random battle, it basically takes all of those enemies and absorbs them into that machine, into an alternate dimension, and it builds up this meter that goes up to 30. So you can just run around not getting in battles, but the meter's building up because it's sucking the enemies into that device. So you can just kind of like run around, do your thing, and then be like, oh, it's up to like 15 or whatever. I guess I'll fight those 15 enemies now. So you go into that alternate like dimension and you fight those enemies there, which I think is actually really cool.
You can get all the battles out of the way at once instead of every 5 steps.
But there's also little power-ups on the field. So there's actually like an advantage to like doing that too through that. Whereas like if you hit that little thing, you get a attack up, and then you can kind of get rid of them faster too. So it's not just to like bunch them up and throw them in there. There's actually like, you can take advantage of it. So I think that's just like a fun little extra thing. But the song in there is weird. It's got like this weird like 70s vibe. It's like this weird 70s like song. I can't. It's just really weird. It sounds like 70s sci-fi. Yeah. So yeah, some of the songs are kind of like, I'm not really feeling this. I don't know if Uematsu was like drunk that day or something, but otherwise, like there is some solid tracks in there. So I'd say more pros and cons as far as the music, and then just the game overall. But yeah, I mean, I get it. $50 is pricey, but I do think, again, I do think that even though yes, this was a mobile game,
that doesn't mean it's not worth it. By the way, it might be worth.
Yeah, right. Yeah, too pricey just as a perspective thing.
Very relative. Like if you
very relative.
Yeah. If you're a JRPG nut, and if you love, I mean, these are Final Fantasy like creators. These are like the OGs, and so it's like nothing wrong with giving it a shot. If you find yourself agreeing with most of Dan's takes on games, get this game. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. Ultimately, this was something that when I played it, I was like, this doesn't belong here. This belongs on a console because the quality is too high to be stuck on a freaking Apple, like on your phone. Like
you threw your phone out the window. I remember.
I did. Yeah, I did. And then it boomeranged back and hit me in the face.
Yeah,
so.
You're still paying this off.
This is still $1,000.
Some guy from Verizon was out there throwing it back in your window.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's awesome. So.
Also out this week, just as a reminder, in case you guys missed it, for those of you who are old school Sony fans, Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver 1 and 2 remastered were out this week.
How about that?
The responses to those from the users on Steam, at least, seems to be quite good, which is cool.
A lot of PS2 games coming out this month with like The Thing last week and this, and they're
the
all
Thing remastered,
and they're all good. Like that's it's shocking.
That was a good
Yeah.
Guys, I don't know if you remember PS2 generation, pretty good.
Pretty good.
It was might have been the best. Yeah.
Pretty good.
I don't know. I'd have to think about it.
Pretty good.
Pretty good season for games. Speaking of which, I went on a little CD keys splurge. Speaking of PS2 games, because I actually don't own these, and I bought the Devil May Cry 1 through 4 for a total of like $5. Got all 4 of them.
I was about to pull his devil trigger. Am I right?
Yeah, I want to I want to revisit the first 2 because I played all the way through 1.
Yeah,
I really liked that game. I played a lot of 2 and all of it, and I never played 3 or 4.
Yeah, 2 everybody hates, but like 2's got a lot of good ideas.
Yeah, it does.
Like, you're outside of like the noise of like when 2 came out. So
yeah, like one is like up here, and then 2's like, whoa, what's going on? Like we're going down, and then 3's like going right back up.
3 is so good.
It goes right back up, baby.
It's probably up there, one of my favorite games ever. I love that game so much.
Yeah, I know 3 gets a lot of love. Of course, we all love 5, the most recent one.
Yeah. He's such a little jerk in 3. Dante's like young in 3, and he's such a jerk.
Yeah, because it's a prequel. Yeah, he's super snarky.
Yeah.
So Soul Reaver's out. There's a funny little game that just came out this week that I do want to try. It's called Ballionaire. It kind of looks like a pinball roguelike thing. It looks silly, but it's got a little pinball flair to it. Lots of like colors and things exploding all over. So that looks fun. And then there's another little game I wanted to just throw out there called Uncle Chop's Rocket Shop, where you are actually running like a spaceship repair shop. People compare it to stuff like Dave the Diver. It's got that kind of modern pixelated look to it in some ways, but so that I got to try that one out. That looks fun. Also out this week, or actually it was last week. Don't know if you guys talked about it at all, but I at least wanted to let you know that my kids love Marvel Rivals. I mean.
Yeah, we did talk about it a little bit last week. Yeah,
so I have nothing to report. I'm sorry.
They are digging it big time. They're all playing it, and especially my oldest.
Very well.
That's doing very well. My oldest son loves it. He's already like him and his.
What are they? What are their characters?
He is all in on Scarlet Witch, but he does love Jeff. Actually, my one of the twins was playing it.
The shark,
the shark. Yeah, he's like mainly healing, but his ultimate is stupid. He can essentially like gather.
I feel like they need to fix that.
and then like he can kind of carry him like off the stage, and like
just
they're all dead. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but
so
anyway,
you're useless until your special hits. Yeah.
But I will say this: I've watched them play a bunch, and I've heard the music too. The main theme for that song slaps way harder than it needs to. Like,
okay,
yeah.
It's really.
I was saying like, the UI is like really slick, right? Like it's just
UI
very
really
comic
slick.
booky and slick, and just like
cool.
swooshing around,
people,
and it just looks.
It's
really
like
nice.
It's like the same people who you ever gone to like Barnes and Noble, or maybe you own one of these books, but you read one of those like Marvel encyclopedias that's like like huge and like just beautiful look and feel. It feels like that kind of like someone who would
this?
Yeah, like that. Like
exactly. That's pretty. I like that.
Yeah, like this game feels like something like that, where it's people who love Marvel and just wanted to make a really fun multiplayer game. Now, it certainly has its free to play trappings, so don't get fooled. It definitely has.
Yeah, but it's fully free. You know what I mean? It's fully free. You know, so free. Yeah. Is it? We couldn't figure it out last week. Was it true that all 16 characters are available to pick right away? You don't have to buy it. It's all cosmetics, right? Like
I believe. I think there were 16 to choose from. I actually didn't ask them, but I'm pretty sure there were 16.
Yeah, I don't think you're buying character passes or unlong things.
They'll do that later.
Wise, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll do
maybe new characters. Maybe you're buying new characters.
Yeah.
But like this like first batch, I think you got the pick of the litter. You know, which is
it's
again, cool,
it's on the 2 newest consoles and PC. It's too much to run on old consoles, or definitely too much for Switch. But
I like to think about these guys. They're all in the studio. They're cooking this game up for a few years now, and they see Overwatch 2 come out, and they see it just bite it, and they're like, yeah! It's like when NASA like landed on the moon. Everyone's like,
but also maybe a little worried.
Yes, yeah, like because now they have no competition. They can just slink right in here and just like be good, So I'm happy for it. I'm not gonna play it, but I'm happy for it.
Yeah, my son's like, you should play with this, Dad. I was like, oh no, I'm interested in like.
I'm happy you guys are happy.
I'm interested in is it good and what does it look like? Oh, that looks cool. I have no interest in.
It still sounds very competitive. It still sounds like you want to be playing like with a group of people. Like just all a lot of things that I don't have. So.
Yeah.
Or I have a group of people, but they're not interested in this,
Right.
So.
I mentioned, Tim, that I had only played a match of it before we recorded last week. And I liked the one match that I played. So
there you go.
He played Spidey.
But I did, of course, absolutely. Love Spidey. I don't know if you guys know
that. Yeah, I know that a lot of people like Hawkeye too, and Loki. My son loves using Loki because you can pretty much mirror any other character and use their ultimate, which is crazy.
Okay, that's clever. That's clever.
Yeah,
I like that it's third person too. Like I really like that it's that. Instead of first person,
I like being able to see. I mean, Marvel characters, you want to be able to see your character. Mm-hmm. So that is that's definitely a thing. And then, last but not least, and I know you guys already covered it, especially Jeff talked about his first impressions. But since you guys recorded, I know I've played a bunch. I think I'm almost 10 hours into Indiana Jones. I know Kyle, you played some Indiana Jones. So I wanted to at least share some updated impressions on Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which I am so bummed for that team that they didn't make the cut for the Game Awards, because I feel like it deserves some element.
I have heard many people on many podcasts go, don't finalize your Game of the Year list yet. Yeah. Like when talking about this game, like play this game and then like finalize. And I agree.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason a lot of
that you have like your list like completed yet and you haven't played that game yet, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah. It's like it very much reminds me of, I guess now it was 3 years ago, Guardians of the Galaxy, where it's like, why is this so good? Why am I so invested? Yeah. Why is this so fun? What the heck happened? No one told me that, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And we knew about Indiana Jones for a while now. I just assumed it would not be good, and that's me. That's a me.
Yeah, we were kind of talking about that last week. It's like I don't know if I thought it was gonna be bad because it's machine games. Like they don't really put out bad games, but like there was something about it that just there was nothing to be excited for.
Yeah.
And I think everybody felt that way. I just whenever I talk to anybody, they're just like, yeah, the indie game's coming out. I'm like, yeah, are you getting it? They're like, it's on Game Pass, and I'm like, there should be more, I don't know, pizzazz when we're talking about Indiana Jones, like, and there wasn't, nobody had it.
It just wasn't. I know, but so I've played it for a while. I've finished. So there's like a whole opening sequence, and then you go to your first kind of open area. I'm sure you guys already talked about this. I won't say too many details about where things are, but anyway, so I finished that first open area. and I'm on to the next one, which is also a big open area with lots of things to discover and side missions. And I just wanted to talk about a couple of systems I really like. I did not think I would like first-person melee. You know why? Because I've never liked it. It's never fun. In any game I play, usually at best it's like serviceable and it works fine. But rarely do I have fun. I actually have fun with this like punching system. Like, there's even underground boxing where you can go fight. I'm like, I kind of like the system they've put together here. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Simple, but it's good.
I like to pick up anything and smash it over the head.
Yes.
That's funny. That's funny.
It's so good.
There's like a little frying pan. Bonk. There's even a fly swatter. You can hit him with the fly swatter.
That's always fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I do like those systems, but I mean, there's elements of it that, especially if you're doing a lot of backtracking and trying to find all the secrets, sometimes climbing on the gutter for the 8th time, because he's not the fastest climber in the world. Sometimes that can be a little bit like, all right, can we speed? And even when you hit like the climb faster button, it's really subtle, like how much faster he's going.
Yeah.
Like those are the only negatives I can point out are little things like that. And that's when you, the player, decide, I want to be a completionist and go back and get this thing. Usually that's when you'll experience it.
Yeah, I have been pushing forward as much as I can. Like I'm looking around while I'm walking through stuff, but I'm like, if it's back there, I'm like, well, let's just keep walking. I'll come back for that stuff, you know?
Yeah. I even like
yeah.
the Hitman-esque elements to it. You know, I'm a big Hitman fan, and I love the costumes that you can get that give you access to different areas. And this absolutely has that. Like, there's 2 main costumes. Yeah, there's 2 main costumes outside of your main awesome, you know, indie hat, leather jacket look. But there's 2 main costumes in that first area, and swapping between them gives you access to whole new areas of the map, at least to walk more freely. Technically, you could find ways to fight enemies or sneak your way through most of it if you wanted to. But you're not indestructible. Like, you can get overwhelmed and, you know, beat down pretty quick. You have like 6 bullets. You know, it's not a shooter at all.
Yeah.
So I think I've shot like twice total in the game. I think. Yeah. Like, I haven't really used my gun.
I mean, Indy's not really shooting a lot in the movies,
he's not
right?
Shooting. I mean, he's much more like grab a shovel and knock the bad guy out and then make some kind of, you know, smart aleck quip at him and then keep on moving. You know, that's what he does.
The Harrison Ford grin, you know.
That's right. A little. And can I just say, Troy Baker or the audio engineer or both, I don't know what they did.
It's just an impersonation. There's no.
It sounds just like 1980s.
There's no digitized
Harrison
nature to it.
It sounds
because
like
it happens so little, but every once in a while you're like, "There's Troy Baker."
There's Troy Baker.
But like, it is not in a way that pulls you out of it. It's just like you're like, "Oh yeah, this is an impersonation," you know. But like, it is spot on. It's so good. I kind of wished he did it at the Game Awards. He just did it right there on the mic. Right but Harrison Ford was there, and impersonationists they tend not to like to do the impersonation in front of the person because it's kind of rude, you know. So
especially Harrison, he's very, you know,
he's grumpy. I wouldn't want to get on that guy's bad
that's
side.
Another feather in the cap of our greatest actor, Nicolas Cage. He's fine with people impersonating him right in front of him. You know, Andy Samberg did it right to his face.
It's true. Yeah. I wonder how he felt about it, Andy. I wonder if he was like nervous to do it.
That's high praise.
High praise.
That's high praise.
So there's also a system, like there's these super minor upgrade elements where you find these books and you got to use these experience points that you gather through exploring to then activate. Maybe your punches hit harder, or maybe now you can see things on the map, or maybe climbing takes less stamina. Those kind of upgrades you would expect. But there's all kind. They give all the collectibles like a reason to collect them. So like, for example, you find these medicines. Like, why am I going through all this trouble to distract the guard so I can steal a medicine from their barracks? And you actually use that as a secondary form of currency to buy these books from. There's NPCs kind of in each area you go to that are swapping medicine for these training books. They might make you be able to sprint longer or whatever the upgrade might be. And the upgrades are really even named in a way that makes sense. It's like Moxie. I'm like, yeah, Harrison Ford or Indy would want some Moxie. You know what I mean? So I like that upgrade system as well. I'm just really digging it. Even I've done a few of the side missions too, and they are really fun. And a couple of them really tie into the main story also, but they're not really necessary. You can kind of chug ahead. There's certainly things that make me go, all right, well, there's no way that none of them would have seen me as I snuck past there, but I don't want it to be a challenging stealth simulator.
Again,
like, I'm glad.
Stealth is always tricky.
I hear and I've experienced so far, I'm still pretty early, that it's pretty forgiving. So if like Metal Gear Solid rules. Like if you alert an area and you break line of sight and you wait for a bit, everyone just kind of goes back to the patrols. There's not like Star Wars Outlaws like fail states, like, oh, I got seen, I have to restart all this.
Not that at all, right? So. And even if you do see them and then you have to square up against a couple of them, it's not usually a whole platoon. I think there's been one time where I was like, okay, I'm overwhelmed here, but usually it's.
Yeah, it's not like they have radios, this is like 1920 something, or 1930 something. So it's like you're just alerting the people in that area.
They all just have little batons, and most of them come up and they're ready to just like throw down.
Yeah.
Most of them don't pull out their guns and start firing. So
right.
So anyway, so that part of it is, I'm kind of glad it has the video game forgiveness of, detection.
Fun first stealth.
I'm like, there's no way that me swinging across there with my whip wouldn't have caught his attention. Like I know he's down one floor, but he's looking my direction. But for some reason, since I'm up here, he can't see me. He's like, nope, can only see what's right in front of me. Can't do this.
There's no peripheral at all.
There's none.
Well, I guess the game is really terrible. So
the game is awful. I am having so much fun with it. It's just a good old fashioned indie adventure. They really captured the heart of what makes it fun, and it feels like an adventure.
It feels very much like there's even that moment at the beginning where he's like excited that he's about to go on another adventure and he's packing his suitcase. Like that's from the movie. Like where he's like walking around, he's like, oh, I have a picture of the artifact I'm looking for. Let me grab this and let me grab my whip and my hat and like put it all. And you're packing it like that's from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like it is. Yeah. It's just vibes all day. They just capture
vibes all day. And I did get a chance to, I've seen the main bad guy and I'm starting to piece together like what their goals are and what, how he got dragged into this. And so, I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. Yeah, it's really good. So, and the banter is good too. Like it's well written. Probably not perfect, but it's well written. So.
Yeah, I mean that trailer that they showed that was like, oh, this is cool, but like we don't know yet. Like the writing and banter and all that, the dialogue seemed fine. Like it was just kind of like everything
what they kept showing
video
off,
game about it.
They were like, look, we made an indie movie game, and I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Again, the marketing, I don't know. I don't even say the marketing was bad for this game. I don't know why.
I just wrote it off.
We had a collective like snooze on it. Like we had a collective like worldwide snooze on this game, and I think we're all waking up to it now, though. So
I agree.
Like me, yeah.
I'm having a ton of fun with that game. Anything else that you guys are playing, especially if it's recent stuff that you guys want to highlight? I am going to talk a little bit about Path of Exile too, but I just talked a bunch about indie. So is there anything else that either of you are playing that you want to highlight?
Fantasian this week for me.
All Fantasian. Okay.
Yeah, I'm back into Metaphor. That's all I'm doing right now.
Metaphor and indie.
At the very end of that game.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Very end of it. Yeah.
Indiana Jones and the Refantasio. Something like that. That's how it goes.
It's a good title. Yeah.
So I have been playing some Path of Exile 2. I haven't played it a ton. I think I've beaten 2 of the bosses, maybe. From what I've heard, 3 of the 6 available acts or chapters or whatever they're called are currently available. And then they're also showing you what the end game's going to look like. So like all the positivity that's out there about it is really only about half the game, which is super impressive.
Yeah. Impressive like Hades 2, like where
exactly
everyone was like, oh my god, this is so good. And I'm like, it's like not the full game, so that's super cool.
Yeah. So at least that's
better than should be early access games.
Exactly.
Games,
Exactly. And so I played a bit of it. There's elements of it that make me think of my brief time with Diablo 4, but I played other Diablo games too. Yes, I can see there's some comparisons to Dark Souls just with mainly the difficulty. But then there's good comparisons to other games I've played too. Like there's very limited inventory space, which I think is actually a problem. They need to figure out a better way to let you at least dismantle things, because I feel like there's a lot of stuff I'm just throwing on the ground to make space for something that I think is better.
I hate that feeling so much.
Yeah.
So that loop behind.
Yeah, and I know they've patched it a couple times since I played it last, but so hopefully that's something they address, or maybe there's inventory upgrades that I just am so early I haven't seen. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's on a grid, and like a piece of armor takes up like a 2x3 spot on your grid, but I couldn't even turn it sideways. So I had all this wasted space because I couldn't turn things sideways.
It's like Resident Evil. You're trying to Tetris the inventory.
That was always kind of fun for me because I never felt like it was so overloaded that I was like, crap, I never have space. But it it was like a little puzzle. I was like fitting things into the.
Yeah, I have pretty mild OCD, and that really sang to me in a way where I'm just like, this is for me. This is Capcom is thinking of people like me.
When you realize two things are in there and they're not stacked yet, and you stack them, you're like, oh, that felt so good. I just
yeah.
Felt so
Got
good.
it all
The
in.
best. The best.
So the inventory is definitely a negative mark, but I gotta tell you, the visuals on it, the enemy design, the sound, all of it, the voice acting, it's really high quality, and you can. Like by default, stuff like world chat is on, which I hate. I hate seeing everyone with their stupid usernames saying their stupid like modern day lingo.
Bong Ripper 420.
It just ruins it for me. So I quickly went in and found
the first thing I turn off
in their interface. I just went down and I was like, why is this on by default? So I turned off world chat and all that stuff. Instantly better game by doing that. Instantly better, but you're still like when you're in the main hubs, not unlike a lot of games like this, you see lots of other player characters running around, and then you can choose to team up. I think they do want you to party up and you can run missions together, not unlike again Diablo game. But when you go off on your own, you don't see anybody else. Like when you get to an area and you are on your own, it's your own instance that you get to experience, which is cool. I find the controls to be awesome. The powers, I mean, this what's it called? The ability tree is.
Yeah, I took a glimpse at that and I go, whoa.
Yeah.
It is like the sphere grid on crack.
It is.
That's what it is.
It's massive. Jesus. Like the Path of Exile 2's ability grid is crazy.
Like if you're planning out, like if you're planning out your build, I can only imagine like how stressful that feels because like you're like the amount of like ways that you're, I don't know, the amount of avenue, like I would probably just end up watching someone's video on a good build and just be like, I'm just gonna copy that. Yeah.
And the way I'm approaching it
but
now
it's cool.
is like,
I like that. That's a me being overwhelmed thing. That's not a criticism at all.
Of course,
it's
one of those things
lot
where,
of player choice, you know.
I mean, I get overwhelmed by some systems and it does become a detriment just from my experience. So I totally get that. For me, it was a little more straightforward. Like some of the upgrades were, do I want to be more about critical hits or do I want more stamina so I can swing more often? So I was like, all right, I'll do this instead. So I just kind of went that direction. But yes, it clearly branches out 1,000 different directions over time.
It really gets into the minutia of it, but which is good. Like you want a game like that that's so stat heavy, to, like,
great
for you to have like full autonomy of your stats.
I think they need to. Hopefully, again, it's an early access. Just launched in early access, so I'm hoping that with feedback and how players are responding and what's working, what's not. I think the loot system could be improved. It's pretty cool. Like lots of cool stuff drops, but it seems too random. Like I'm a monk, and so I have very specific stuff I can use, like these quarter staffs and stuff like that. I can't use shields. I can't use wands. Like there's a lot of cool classes in this game, but I'm getting a lot of these drops, and I'm like, well, I can sell it. It's just nice. I do need money in this game, but it's just another annoying thing that either I have to run back and sell it, or hope that I don't get too many drops and now have to pick what to leave by the wayside.
The game should be smart enough to be like, it needs to be monk stuff. But if you don't need it, you could still make your money.
Yeah,
like
Diablo does that, and I think the first PoE did it too. So I think that, like you said,
they'll improve it.
That'll get improved. You know, like there should be some kind of lean of like the majority of stuff that drops for you, but you still kind of get some stuff that are just for your selling needs. But
yeah,
I can see how that's frustrating for sure.
Yeah, it looks like they actually did put out a patch 3 days ago. Mine just updated today. Now that I'm glancing at it. Lots of bug fixes. That's awesome. Improving balance.
You said it was full voice acted? Like there's voice acting and
yeah, there's voice acting. Yep.
Nice. Cool. Ooh, how are there any like Blizzard level like CGI FMV like epic cutscene things or?
There's some cutscenes, but I wouldn't call it Blizzard level.
Not Blizzard level,
but it's good. Yeah. And I like the opening. I think the opening with how you pick your class is pretty dark but pretty creative, where you've got a group of people that are all set for execution on the gallows, and you cycle through them, and they're each a different class, and whichever one you pick, their rope's on that breaks, and you fall through and can escape, and the rest of them all die.
Damn, that's dark. Yeah, that's
yeah. I was like, that's cool. I'm gonna pick a different class just so I can see how they escape. But I picked monk and I love it. There's a cool combo of like ice and thunder powers that I'm using. So I have this quarter staff. He attacks real fast, and then can do kind of like this thunder slam on the ground with it. Can do these hits where you kind of hit and then jump backwards because you're not you don't have horrible defense, but it's definitely not good, and you can die within a few hits. The enemies are tough. The first boss I died at on my first try, and I was like, hang on, this game's for real. Okay, hang on.
Pushes back, yeah.
So yeah, and things like I know people who do use a shield when you do need to block or whatever, or parry or whatever it is that you can do. It wasn't all directions. You had to face the right direction, which a lot of people did not like. So I think that's another thing they've updated recently is that when you hold block or parry or whatever, it'll automatically kind of turn you to whoever is attacking you. So little improvements like that sound like they're pretty welcome. But yeah, I think it's cool. I think it controls really great. You can map any of the moves you get to any button. So my LB is this ice move that comes up from the ground. My Y button is this big slam. So like I even have one where if you get enemies down to a certain amount of health, the monk has this, now you can see a blue orb glowing over them, and he can do this palm strike that instant kills them, and it gives him a charge which ups his attack for like 60 seconds. So it's a cool, buff for the monk, which I think is really neat. They have these scrolls of wisdom, I think they're called, because you'll get drops of items that you don't know what they are. It might be like a shield. It'll say like a cracked great shield, but you don't know what kind it is, if it's a rare or a common, or what stat boost it might have. You have to use these scrolls of wisdom to reveal what it is. And you don't have to. You could just sell it as is, or you could use that to kind of unlock what the item is. It's the same thing with like armor and weapons and stuff like that. So they have that system, and I assume with it being free to play at some point, you can buy those. I'm assuming you'll be able to buy these scrolls of wisdom to identify items. But right now they're dropping pretty liberally. For me, I've gotten a lot of those. Yeah, there's also these gems that sounds like in a free to play game. It's going to be free to play right now. It costs money for early access. It's not an energy related thing. It's literally an ability gem that you can use to unlock your next class's ability, and then you can map it, which is super cool. And you can upgrade an ability. So yeah, it's a cool game. Lots of neat systems, great graphics. It
sounds very in depth already. And again, it's early access.
Yeah, I think if you are a fan of action RPGs, this isometric style action RPG, there's just no question you should absolutely play this game when it launches. If you are a hardcore fan and you are hungry for the next Diablo or whatever, $30, you can go play it now. So it's a hard recommend when it's free. Absolutely, you should try it because it's only going to be better than it is right now. And but yeah, I would recommend.
I do get worried that you put a lot of time into early access and they do like a server wipe or something like that sometimes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Especially on a game like this grindy, but it might not, Like I know wasn't Valheim kind of like that, or did you have to start new server?
It was V Rising.
V Rising, okay. Yeah.
V Rising reset everything, which
yeah,
people loved.
Yeah, so maybe that's not the norm, and maybe that won't happen. So
yeah, I think the only way you could have saved that is some people had their own kind of their own personal hosted servers or whatever, and you just don't get any of the updates. Yeah. But as soon as you employ any of the updates, everything wipes. So. Yeah. Anyway, so that game is awesome. Really enjoying that. But that's not what the people are here for. They're not here to hear us talk about these old 1-week-old games. No one wants to hear this garbage.
Ancient news.
So boring. What they really want to hear about is what Dan is streaming. Final Fantasy VI. I'm just kidding. That's not what they want to hear about either.
I mean,
but it is Final Fantasy VI, and you guys should go watch Dapper_Chocobo because that's the best game ever, maybe. All right. So let's talk about the Game Awards. First of all, let's see who won our little competition. We made some predictions. So this is our way of not only reviewing the winners, and we can give our thoughts on who won, but also see who of us did the best.
I wonder.
On the predictions.
I wonder.
So
what?
So we made our predictions. I sent in my predictions ahead of time, and as I was looking back through them this week, I was like, I can't believe I picked that one. Why did I pick that one? But I filled them out because I knew I wouldn't be on the show. Because I actually went with some buddies in town and played some board games, some in-person socializing last week.
Yeah, that's the best.
Good times. And I was thinking I could be back in time to talk about it, but the game went long.
Yeah,
as they do. It's a board game.
Board game. It goes long. But yeah. Anyway. So I did really poorly on all the main categories as I looked across the
It's funny because I think for every time that we said your vote, I was like, Tim, that's a really good vote from Tim. That's a really good one. So it is funny to hear you say
all
that.
Wrong. Yeah.
I thought you had many of them right, but
yeah, I was very wrong. But I still ended up in second place with 14 points. Dan, you were in fourth place out of 4 with 11 points.
That's what I get for voting with my heart.
Yeah. There's way too many Final Fantasy selections on here.
There's not enough. Tim, there's not enough. All right, there's not enough.
I don't know. Jeff finished, and hey, to his credit, and he hasn't been as plugged into the gaming world this year, although he's getting back in this month. He got 12 points on his predictions. But our number one finisher, I feel like every year, Kyle wins the prediction game.
Got my finger on the pulse of the industry.
You won by 1.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be close. I didn't have like the stuff right in front of me, but like when I was going through the things, I would turn to the group of friends. I was like, I got that one right. And they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, watch the podcast.
The most was like, as I was looking at it, I was like, why did I pick? There's a couple of these that I wish I hadn't picked for like
Insights 2020.
games for Impact. I should have picked Neva with my secondary, maybe being Senua Saga. Like I picked Tales of Kanzara Zao just because I remember my mind was stuck on when they released it and talked about how like all the representation and all that stuff. And like the reasoning for making. So I was just like, okay, that's the one. And I just played Neva, and of course it's that one. That's absolutely whatever, man. So I got 14 points. Hindsight is 2020. But let's talk about the winners. Here, let me pull up the official Game Awards winner list. First of all, other than the main, we'll get to the main ones soon, but were you guys surprised by any of more like the mid to lower level category winners?
I don't think
anything
so.
surprising?
Really overly shocked by anything. Everything kind of made sense if you just, took it for what it was.
Yeah. Like most anticipated game, no one thought anything but Grand Theft Auto.
That's an insane thing to even have Grand Theft Auto as a nominee for that. Is it the best-selling thing ever created, or some of these other things?
Yeah, no, I agree.
I agree. The one that's, I'm sorry, like, and I mean, I love the video game series. I love Fallout 3, but like, fuck off with Fallout winning over Arcane. I'm sorry, but that's ridiculous. Like,
well, Arcane already won this, so I
don't care.
My reasoning was Fallout was
that's ridiculous.
Fallout Arcane's was like my second favorite show of the year and one of the biggest TV year. I'm so happy that won. I'm very happy, and I'm glad. I only think Arcane didn't win because it won previously. If I had to take,
that's what I think. Yeah, so I think Fallout was fine. It was like, hey, finally a live action adaptation of a video game worked, and whether or not it was everyone's favorite, it worked. It worked really well.
Arcane's literally a masterpiece visually. My eyes. That's all I have to say.
I agree with you completely. Although I was whatever. Arcane's amazing, and that would have been my pick out of all these options as the best adaptation. But Fallout 1, Grand Theft Auto 6, no surprise. Of course, debut indie and indie game both went to Balatro. No surprise there. It also got best mobile game.
A lot of Balatro.
Yeah, beating out the likes of Animal Well and Neva and a few others. I don't know. I didn't have any problem with it winning, probably just because it was nominated for best game of the year. And so I just assumed it was going to win those.
Yeah.
So
and I feel like if it wins best indie debut, like it sets itself up to win best indie as well.
Yeah. If it's on both of those, how could it not be? Both,
yeah.
Right.
It's it's very much a director.
I personally like Neva and UFO 50 better than it. Like my experience of both of those has been much better, but I still like Balatro. It's a fun little card game.
Who were those people that accepted the award too? By the way, that felt like such like a weird like they hired a couple.
I was
people
behind, so I skipped
that
ahead.
was the publisher or the guy, the distributor of the publisher.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just seemed very like I don't know. There was like a weird energy about it. And he's just like, yeah, so like he really wanted to actually thank all these other people, and he would have given them like the trophy.
Yeah, it just read to me that he's kind of a socially awkward weirdo who didn't want to be up on stage, and he's like, well, let somebody else do that, and I don't want a lot of attention. Like, congratulate everybody else, and I was like, I respect that.
Yeah.
I was very surprised to see Frostpunk win the best Frostpunk 2 win best simulation or strategy game. I think Unicorn Overlord should have won it. We all predicted that it would win.
Yeah.
That being said, Frostpunk 2 is excellent.
I forgot that it reviewed so well, to be honest. I did.
Yeah. It really is. It's such a unique setting and visual style and like approach to managing a city and making decisions. Like, it really is a good game. I just think Unicorn Overlord was like, if you hadn't played like ogre battle games, it was unlike anything else before it. You know what I mean? So it was just so. But anyway, best family game went to Astrobot. Maybe the first time a Nintendo game hasn't won that in a long time, but I haven't actually checked. Don't fact check me on that. Just feels like
true.
Best fighting game went to Tekken 8. People seem to love their Tekken 8, and it's also getting a Final Fantasy 16 character in the form of Clive being added to that,
which is interesting. Because it's like I'm not offended by that, but like, I don't know. I think the obvious choice is Tifa, and we still don't have Tifa in Tekken. Like,
yeah, she's literally a hand-to-hand combat person.
Right. But I mean, it's unique. And like what they showed is really, with effort popping up, is like it looks really epic, and that's cool. So,
best role-playing game went to Metaphor Fantasio, which very well deserved. I think everyone agrees with that.
Yes.
Jeff picked Elden Ring. That was just his bias coming through because he hates it so much. He wanted it to win something stupid like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, spoiler alert: Elden Ring Shadow of the Earth Tree won nothing.
Yeah, right.
Why
was it nominated then?
For as much as we belly ached about it, for good reason, it didn't even win anything. So it's almost like, well, if we had known it was just going to be on there, almost just for like a pat on the back, maybe we wouldn't have cared as much. But
I wish the pat on the back went to somebody else still.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It took someone else's spot. Yeah. That's true.
So I was watching someone stream, and somebody said, and I was like, oh, this is like some tinfoil hat stuff that I can kind of maybe get on board with. Okay. It was almost like they were doing that on purpose just to rile everybody up and get them to show up and watch to see if it in fact won or not.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. Could have been. Best action adventure went to Astrobot. A lot of good contenders there, but I actually did not think Astrobot was going to win Game of the Year, so I thought this might be the bone that they throw to it.
That's right. I don't know if that's how I voted. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. I think we all picked a different game for that one. Actually, it was one of the only categories that none of us copied each other. But best action game went to Black Myth Wukong, of course. Stellar Blade getting shut out because it had the best chance I thought of winning either music or this. That was its best chances of winning one or the other. So Black Myth Wukong, that was its only award, I believe, of the evening. Was for best action game. VR game went to Batman Arkham Shadow. I don't think it reviewed the best compared to like Asgard's Wrath, but
that's how I voted. I was like, I remember everybody on Earth talking about Asgard's Wrath. I remember Batman kind of coming and going, but that's just my memory of it. I don't know. I think people like in hindsight did like Batman. I think people did.
They did.
Yeah.
Black Myth Wukong won the People's whatever one.
Okay.
It won that one too. Yeah, people apparently like super.
Did you see what it was up against? It was up against two of the Hoyoverse games, so it's like I don't trust who's voting on that.
There was 10 altogether.
I don't either.
It was 10 altogether. It dwindled down to the 5, and like. It was either like 5 or 6
Zone Zero and Genshin Impact again.
It was a bunch of gotcha stuff. It was just a bunch of gotcha stuff. It's like, okay, you people suck.
And they kept saying
tired of these like word salad title games. Zenless Zone Zero, Wuthering Waves, and Genshin Impact. Like I'm just so.
What's a Werther? What's a Werther?
What is it? I could go for a Werther's. Those little caramel candies. You guys don't
have one? There you go.
So accessibility. That one went to Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. This is usually a crapshoot because I don't know what they're looking for this. Is it like which has the most options?
Amount? Is it the amount of options? Is it the quality of options? I don't know. Yeah.
And then community support went to Baldur's Gate 3. Kyle and I got that one right. And that was just because I feel like I've seen more news on that one. Not that I've checked for every game, But that one just seems to have gotten the most news and communication to the community about things that they're fixing and working on.
I remember in October or November reading an article about how there were more players playing Baldur's Gate 3 that week than there were that time last year when the game came out. And I was like, oh, okay, so everyone's still playing this game. So like that's why I voted for it. I was like, yeah, it is very big. And they keep on patching that stupid thing. They just added 14 new classes. They did literally last week. They just added 14.
Didn't they say they weren't doing any more updates too? Like, didn't they just straight up say like?
I don't know. I don't know if they were. I know they said they were never going to do content, but that's almost untrue though because they've added more endings to the game.
Well, then maybe all they said was no DLC. Maybe that's what
they definitely said at the very beginning no expansion, no DLC. But it is interesting. Like they're like we did just add 6 new evil endings, and we gave epilogues for more characters, and I'm like. You guys are nuts.
They just keep going.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you heard the speech that their director gave when he came out at the end, it's like that's
dude.
He could have been putting on a show, but he made a great speech. Yeah,
that was came out in a cape.
It was a necessary speech.
Yeah,
a necessary speech.
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, it was like, well, who's currently doing a lot of those things? Larian, of course, setting the standard, but I think in a lot of ways, Nintendo does a lot of that stuff too. But anyway,
I have a lot. We're going to talk about my thoughts on the Nintendo stuff a little bit later.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like they often get Nintendo's doing all this good stuff over here. They're like, yeah, but it's just Nintendo.
It's just Nintendo.
I feel like there is something there where people are like, I don't know, it's just Nintendo. I don't know.
I agree with you. Best ongoing game went to Helldivers 2, which I think most of us were surprised by. But that's cool that it won that. Games for Impact went to Neva. I think we mentioned that. Best performance, not a huge surprise, went to Melina Jurgens from Senua's Saga. Listen,
first time, second time winner.
It's the first one to win that twice.
First repeat winner.
Anytime you have a game that's built around someone's down to the absolute detail of their face, their expressions, their breathing, their eye movements, like that person's gonna win the award unless they do a bad job. Like it's just so intensely about her and her face and her reactions and her feelings. And I mean, there were some other great people up for this. There were several that were really good, but to me, it was a no-brainer. And so she did win that one. And Harrison Ford came out to help announce that one, which was nice. It was a nice moment.
I like when he couldn't see the prompter and didn't freeze up like Pacino. He's like, I'm not reading that. Just keep going.
Can we let's just talk about the Harrison Ford thing real quick. Number one, when Todd Howard and Troy Baker came out, first of all, the height difference, hilarious.
Yeah.
Super funny.
Yeah. I'd probably wear some
memes.
lips
Good
if
memes.
I were you, Todd Howard.
Yeah, that was super funny. And the memes are so funny because they make him so much smaller. But then, of course, when they were trying to make the silly joke back and forth, and he said that, the other guy, let's see what he thinks. Indiana Jones came out, and I don't know. I feel like I've gotten so cynical, but this was one of the first times I was like, yay! Like I got so excited that he was really there.
This guy, listen, we all know Harrison Ford's a big grump,
Yes.
And he classically was like, I don't want to talk about Star Wars and don't talk to me about Blade Runner, But he's really embracing this late career nerd shit. He's super excited about being in Marvel. Every time he's on the Marvel red carpet, he's smiling and I don't know, and then he comes out on the Game Awards and does a game, he's just embracing it right now. And he's on that show Shrinking, and he's putting in the best.
People are saying he's having the time of his life doing that show.
I've never seen him so enthusiastic about a role.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe grumpy era of Harrison Ford's over. Maybe we're in a new era.
That's awesome. Years. Yeah, he obviously was reading a teleprompter. That's fine, but he did a good job of giving those two guys a shout out for working on the Great Circle. And it did seem like yes, he's an old guy. I get it, but he did seem like maybe there was an open bar in the back. Is all I'm saying.
He's a party. He's a partier.
He's
old.
He's in his mid-80s, isn't he?
He's also old. I get it, but there was a little bit of kind of these two guys.
He had some glossy eyes, man. He was either smoking or drinking back there. It was California. We know what's up.
Sure,
something was happening. But I loved it. I don't know. That kind of gave me the warm and fuzzies to kick off the whole experience. So. Even though the show, and we can talk about what we think about the show overall, was it too long? What would you change? Whatever else. But I don't know. I had generally positive feelings throughout the whole thing, and that helped set the tone for me.
Yeah,
definitely compared to last year because of just how obvious last year was a bit icky, especially the wrap it up stuff. Like there was quite a difference, here this year. I think of those sort of things where that wasn't there.
I agree. Yeah. Also, can we say real quick during the opening show and the occasional segments during the main show, they would have Sydney Goodman come on there again, dressed for prom like she usually does, and
she's pretty cute.
That's fine. She's on TV. I get it, but like, I don't know. I don't believe that she hasn't had an addiction to Slay the Spire, and now when Slay the Spire 2 is coming out, like I just don't believe her. I don't know. Like things like that, they just bug me just a little bit. I'm like,
Tim's not buying what she's selling.
I follow her on Instagram. She's a mega nerd, so it's all true, all of it.
Dang it, Kyle.
Yeah.
Right.
Tim, are you saying that she's too pretty to play? Okay.
Girls don't play video games. That's what Tim is saying.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Don't listen to the nuance of anything I'm saying.
Yeah. There's no context that I'm missing out on. I'm not being reductive in any way.
Yeah. I still.
No, I get it though. I think that she has a performative. I'm presenting voice, and it does kind of come off as like.
It just felt like scripted. That's all.
Yeah. No, it feels like you're reading it off a prompter.
It felt like, okay, you're gonna announce Slay the Spire 2, and then she was trying to think of ways to transition to the next thing, and all right, I'm just gonna. So you come up with clever, like, lovable lines, like.
It's probably the second one's coming out, and I'm still
that
somebody else wrote. It is
still
very
working off my crippling addiction to the first game, and I'm like, no, you're not. Like, I don't know. Maybe she is.
Well, Kyle Bossman has when he's gone on Easy Allies, since he's left, he's talked about how like they have like a crew that writes that stuff. So
him being part of it, Kyle Bossman being part of it.
Yeah, exactly. So,
well, audio design. Oh, speaking of Kyle Bossman, the moment where he was in the crosshairs in the crowd is very funny.
Very funny. Yeah,
he's too good. He's just
that was really funny. They did best audio design. It went to Senua's Saga. I should have known better. I picked Silent Hill 2, just thinking of like how are they going to throw a bone to this remake that everyone loves. To me, like audio design made the most sense because even from the trailers you could tell the audio is a huge part of the horror experience with that game. But no, Senua's Saga of course won that. The more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, of course it won for that. Because they do the whole thing where they all like set up a mic in the middle and they have their voice actors walk around and like talk to it closer or farther away to like get the feeling of voices in her head. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So of course that's what won. Best score and music. Again, I picked Stellar Blade. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, why didn't I pick Final Fantasy VII? It was like looking at the nominees, that was the most obvious, like broadly loved one, and it's probably my favorite music of the year, or it's up there at least. But I thought Stellar Blade had a unique enough sound and matched up enough with something like Nier Automata that I was just like, that might win it. But no.
Any other year, I think Stellar Blade.
Any other year, I think Stellar Blade would have won too.
Yeah, because it's that soundtrack is really good.
It wasn't
if it wasn't going to be Final Fantasy, it was going to be Metaphor. Like I think that those were like the two loved ones.
Fair.
You know,
it would have been Stellar Blade versus Metaphor.
It wasn't fair until until during the show when I heard that orchestra playing the Final Fantasy VII music. I was like,
oh my
crap.
Dude.
Yeah,
I was like, crap. I should have picked that one.
yeah. It's really hard to vote against Final Fantasy, especially one as like 7, like renditions of 7's music. Like it's just like you can't vote against that. It's just
right. Now, I thought that the unique art and mythology take from Black Myth Wukong would have won at Best Art Direction. But no, and that's what Kyle and Jeff also thought. But no, Dan was right. It was Metaphor Refantasio winning.
Yeah,
best
that one rang true to me the second they announced it. I was like, yeah, of course.
yeah. I mean, the imagery in that game is absurd. It's just wild. There's beautiful stuff. There's really just demented stuff. Like it's just it's all over the place, and it's awesome.
Yeah. Not only did Metaphor win for Best Art Direction, it won for Best Narrative over like Dragon, Final Fantasy VII, Senua's Saga, and Silent Hill 2, which Silent Hill 2 seemed like the odd man out to me, but
it might be the best story in the Silent Hill universe, but like against some of those other games you just said, like it's like that's some tough competition. So
yeah, but Metaphor winning that did make sense to me. I didn't play enough to really have a strong opinion on the story. I just loved the way that Rebirth is retelling the story of Final Fantasy with characters that we all know and love, and I do
too. And I don't think people here in the podcast feel this way, but I know people in the reviewing sphere were split on kind of like how things kind of ended in that game.
Yeah,
so
it's definitely.
And I remember,
divisive.
and I like that's why I was like, well, I'm not gonna choose because again these are the voters, so I'm like I remember that happening, so I was like I don't think that's gonna pull through, even though if it did win, I'd be like, well, of course, yeah, it's Final Fantasy, but I just remember a lot of people being. Yeah, I don't know. I like that game a lot. So like, especially the story. So like,
I don't think
the
there's
story
a middle
was the
ground.
I would have celebrated if it would have won.
Yeah, I agree. The story, the visuals, the music, and we'll get into it when we get to our Game of the Year discussion. The only part that still kind of rubs me the wrong way sometimes is the actual combat, which I love sometimes and hate sometimes, and I have a love-hate relationship with that combat system, and I have a lot of.
See, that's so funny because like it's like aggressively people love Rebirth's combat more than remakes because it feels like this natural like
maybe people that you've seen talk about it, but I have had that opinion thankfully validated by many people who have talked about the game, saying like, yeah, it's really inconsistent. Its difficulty spikes are inconsistent. It's usually
sure, okay, yeah.
And
I'm talking more the mechanics.
The way combat feels and is laid out to you as it progresses, it's inconsistent in how they hold your hand and then stop and then hold your hand again and then like it just wasn't. That's and we'll talk about more with Game of the discussions. It wasn't enough to make me stop playing it or not have fun. I had moments where I was like, "Oh, this is so frustrating."
Well, I know you were fighting bosses, and you're like, "What? Why am I just getting demolished all of a sudden?" I was just.
But it would happen in random times for no apparent reason. I would do all the things I want me to do, and that didn't work. And I was like, "Okay, this is getting really annoying." So like, you just get frustrated, and that happens with any game. If you hit what feels like an unfair wall, it's like with all the other things they did so well in that game. Anyway, so that did not win for best narrative. I think it should have. Best game direction though went to our Game of the Year winner, Astrobot. So it won Game of the Year and Best Game Direction.
And this is the Academy rules, like where when the best director wins, his movie usually wins Best Picture. So like this makes sense to me that they would win both, you know. But I also think this was metaphors to win because of just like direction. You're talking about directors and stuff like that, yada yada. But then you start thinking about like the vision of what Astrobot is and the collaborative nature of reaching out to all these devs and getting all these properties, and like you start like unpacking it, you're like, of course, like best direction definitely makes sense for this game. Even though in the moment I'm like, what? But like it's I think if you really think about it and unpack it and think about like the depths of which they had to go through to accomplish this vision, it's not just like, yes, it is just like a cute platformer game, but also again, like Dan was saying, the celebration of the Nintendo brand and getting that many IP from so many different IP holders and putting it all in one package. It's a lot, and you have to have a leader and a very clear vision to like see it through to the end.
True. Sony brand. Sorry, I went with Nintendo for a second. Sony brand, right? Yeah, celebration of the Sony brand.
Sony brand.
Yeah. I agree with you, man. It was like the more I thought about it, the more I was like, it makes sense for this person to win Best Director because that game is so well put together. The experience it doesn't really. There wasn't a moment that I thought, well, that part wasn't good. Like I just didn't have that feeling at all during that game from start to finish. It gives you lots of reasons to keep going and exploring and finishing all the different challenges that are there. And some of them get super tough. Some of those extra challenges get really tough, which is nice for platforming fans who want that extra level of difficulty. But for people who just want to play the main game, they don't have to worry about any of that stuff. They don't want to. So, and both my son and daughter finished it. It's the only game that multiple people in my family have completed this year is Astrobot. So
that's really fun.
Tim household game of the year for sure.
It's a good right family game.
Yeah. Everybody right there votes.
Yeah. So I thought well deserved. I know there's a lot of reactions coming out about it, like really we shouldn't take this seriously anymore because Astrobot won. They emphasized.
Yeah, they also said that we should take this seriously because Elden Ring DLC got like, so it's like the goalpost definitely kept moving all night. About like we shouldn't take this seriously anymore, and it's like, you guys, like it's not that big of a deal. Yeah,
no, it's not.
I mean, that's how.
It's an award that a game got. Other games got nominated for it. You might have picked other games if you were asked to give it a trophy out. You weren't asked to give the trophy out, though.
It's a pretty big like pool of voters, so it's like it won in an industry led by like what quote unquote professionals. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, you don't have to like it, but like that's what it is. It's a board of people who voted for it, and like that's what it is. You don't have to agree with it. I don't always agree with it. Overwatch won Game of the Year. We joked in the in the chat, you know, like you don't have to agree with it, but like when that game came out, everybody was playing it. So like, you know, like it's just one of those things where it's like, just swallow your pride, shut up, and, you know, hope that your favorite gets picked next year.
I mean, also it was really like, it was praised. This game was praised so much that like it was being compared very often to like the quality of a Mario game. That's right. Like Mario is literally one of the most important video game like icons of all time. So if something is like pretty comparable to that, then clearly it's really high quality and you know, should be praised and everything. So
the most fun I've had in a platformer since Mario Odyssey, which I think is arguably could be the best 3D Mario game.
Odyssey's pretty good.
Yeah, it's so good. But as we wrap up the Game Awards talk, one of the things we did too, I put this in our Discord channel as well, was looking back at the winners of the last 10 years of the Game Awards. And when you see it all as a group, when you hear, I'll read them off. When you hear them all as a group, it is a nice variety of games. That it does skew more towards the super serious, mature rated games. And then every once in a while, you'll get a more lighthearted entry. And I think there were really 3. And then there's one that's still pretty family friendly, and the rest are all pretty gritty, mature games. So you've got in 2015, you've got The Witcher 3, which it's right up there with my favorite games of all time. I have zero qualms with that one. Of course, that was my pick for that year. You could make an argument for games like Bloodborne that year too. Very valid case if that's your favorite game of that year. But that was a pretty obvious one, I think. Was there anything else 2015? I think those were the main 2 for most people.
I have to have it in front of me. I don't know.
Yeah.
2016. Probably the only year that I look at and I scoff at their selection of Overwatch. Now, to be fair, I'm not saying it didn't have a huge ripple effect in the industry or in that genre, or it wasn't popular. I understand all that. I understand it probably made the most money, whatever. I just thought as the best video game of the year, in a year that you had stuff like Uncharted 4 come out, like, really? This is the one? Like, I think Doom got relaunched that year. Overwatch is better game than Doom. Like, stop it with this. This is just ridiculous. Stop it. But that being said, it did allow there to be a lighter hearted winner on this list, you know, compared to some of the other ones. The next year we had what I still think is a family friendly game, although I'm not saying it's an unserious game, and that is Breath of the Wild in 2017. No big shocker there. And then 2018 through 2020, the next 3 years, very serious, very gritty, raw, mature games. God of War, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, Last of Us Part 2. I mean, pretty mature run of games there. And all of a sudden, 2021, we turned a sharp corner to It Takes Two.
Which I love that game, but that's kind of another come on.
Is it the best game of the year?
Best game of the year? I mean, I don't have the list of 2021 games in front of me, but like, it's probably not how my list ended up. Even though I thought that game was brilliant. I thought the hype is real on that game, but like, you know.
Well, just to name a few games that I think should have won over it that year. Forza Horizon 5 should have won over that one that year.
It's just a racing game, Tim.
Psychonauts is not just a racing game.
That's what I got told all year that year.
Psychonauts 2. Psychonauts 2 was a brilliant game, and not enough people played it. I love that game. Vampire Survivors, I still would give it over it, but that's just me. I liked Vampire Survivors a lot.
Can you imagine if a game that you don't even press buttons on, like, won Game of the Year? Could you imagine that? An auto shooter game won Game of the Year?
Oh my God.
I
was going to say a walking simulator.
I would have been pretty upset with that, even though that game rocks. So.
The one that I think I would have expected to win, I probably would have bet that it would have won, was Deathloop. Came out that year. I would have thought that one.
Yeah, shocked. Even though whatever with that game. But yeah, I was shocked that game didn't win.
Yeah, I mean, for me that year it was a Valheim year, so that was mine. But and of course Halo Infinite came out too late to qualify, although it did technically release in December of that year. We had Returnal that year. Shin Megami Tensei 5, which I know it's a very niche audience, but people loved that game. We had Hitman 3. I love Hitman 3. But so as I'm going through the list of 2021, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy came out that year. It is a tougher year for us to point at one to be like, that one definitely should have won over It Takes Two. It's a little tougher to point at one. Now, you might have your own. I have my personal opinions. I'm sure you do too. But I can see why it won in 2021. Resident Evil Village. I love that game.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's
I feel like Resident Evil never gets taken serious enough to be a contender. So
which is a bummer. The recent ones have been.
It is a bummer.
So good. Lost Judgment was out that year, really?
Huh. Yeah. That would have been mine, but no one cares, so,
Ah.
No one cares. I care. Yeah, the fact that Yakuza got nominated this year, or Like a Dragon, I was like,
this is a step forward.
Shocking to me that like
and hey, don't worry, they release at least 1 or 2 games every year. They'll get there.
It's true. Like they're rolling the dice the much.
Eventually, the math is gonna math, and it's gonna.
The math
win,
is gonna math. It'll win.
Yeah.
It'll win.
Gotta keep on throwing darts at the dartboard. One of these bullseye, I promise.
But hey, listen, 2021, the real winner that year was all of us because we got to play Unpacking that year. So
there you go.
Kyle, no, come back. Kyle, no.
Okay, Thank you for unpacking that one, Tim. Thank you for unpacking that.
You are so welcome. So then in 2022, we went back to a more serious and intense game with Elden Ring, followed by 2023 with Baldur's Gate 3. And so this year they've pivoted right back to something. And I don't think there's any reasoning that they're saying, all right, that's too many mature games. I'm just finding it interesting when you look at it all laid out, when you see this kind of stuff, is Astrobot Wings. Now, for anyone who looks at that and says that's ridiculous, that's so stupid, it's like the highest rated game on Metacritic and OpenCritic of the year. Universally praised by everyone who actually played it. Really, the only hate that it gets.
There's no barrier. Anybody can play it, and no age restrictions. There's no violence. There's no, you know what I mean. So it's like I don't know. Again, like shocking in the moment. But like, if you just think about it, like it's like, no, duh. Especially the Metacritic or the OpenCritic, or you start talking about, like the average score or whatever being the highest. You have to look at that type of stuff. So
there's just always going to be the people that don't take something like this seriously. Your Gaston kind of games.
Well, yeah, it's and just... like I like to use that term video video games, and like that's what this is. Like it is just a game that is just about celebrating mechanics and being creative with mechanics and showing you old school style level progression in terms of like this is a stage, complete the stage. I don't know, man. It is like a mascot for video games. It's not just a mascot for Sony, but like much like other Nintendo platformers, you're like, yes, this is a video game, which may be corny to say, but like,
no, it's
very, again, once you think about it, it's like,
we all grew up playing these games, but like, it's okay to still be a grown up and feel that like childlike wonder.
I think that there's a large sect of people out there who don't care about massive narrative video games. There's a larger group of people out there who don't play certain types of shooters like your Overwatches and stuff like that. There's always going to be a game that wins that's just outside of like your periphery or outside of your world or whatever,
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's undeserving, like it just
Baldur's Gate 3 and Elden Ring were skipped by so many gamers. Like they're just like, nope, that game's not for me for whatever reason. Yeah. Same with Zelda. Some people are just never gonna play Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom.
I mean, us here with Overwatch. They won in 2016. Millions of people were playing Overwatch. So,
and that's okay. It's okay to be outside of like what everyone's celebrating that year. And like, I feel like people feel shame, and so they lash out. They're like, "Well, I don't get it. And you guys suck." And
I'm so you're saying hurt people hurt people.
That's hurt people hurt people. Tim. Yeah,
that's what it is. Yeah. So I mean, it was no huge like surprise to me who won. When looking back on it now, but that's not the way I voted when I was doing my predictions. I should have thought more through, like, look at the pattern, look what else is out there. As I'm evaluating it more now, it makes the most sense because everything else kind of is a little more in the niche sector. The only exception maybe being Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
To me, that one would have absolutely made sense as well. But once we saw the game director win, we kind of knew what the best game was going to be. Anyway, but also, guys, it's won awards. It's selected by one select group of people, and that's it.
There's the BAFTAs here soon. There's DICE Video Game Award. Right. Like, there's so many other like awards where like, and DICE is all the programmers and devs like voting. So if you think
there's the current gen podcast Game of the Year debates.
Right. So if you think devs and programmers are better voters, then pay attention to those. There's not as much pageantry for those awards, but like they're good awards. I like that. I like people in the community who are making the stuff voting on the stuff. Like I like that.
Me too.
As well, and there's not a
and
big
the player's choice
show.
went to Black Myth Wukong, which by the way only averaged like an 8 out of 10. It's not like that was
it's the lowest nominated game to ever get not only so many awards, but nominated for Game of the Awards at the
crazy.
Game Awards,
yeah,
or Game of the Year, excuse me.
Yep.
So people like that game, like again, like maybe reviewers didn't think that it was the great, even though I remember people just fawning over this game. 8s are good, but like
8s are really good.
It's low when you're talking about a 9.4 or 9.5 average for like Astrobot or whatever it's at, a 93 or 95, I forget what it's at, but like that is much lower. You're talking like 16-point difference, for some
it's at 95 on OpenCritic, and then you've got Rebirth and Metaphor both at 93, 92 respectively. So like 3 really like just top of the line contenders for that top spot.
Yeah.
That really all would have been very deserving, for being honest. Before we talk about some of the breaking news, because there's some really cool things to review together with the news and the announcements and trailers and all that stuff. But if you got to change some things about Game Awards, what do you think? We can go positive too. Like, what did you like? But what would you change? It's a 3-hour show. Do you think the length of it makes sense, given everything they're trying to do in that show? Like, what do you think about the Game Awards overall?
Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I think the length was good. The respectfulness this year was appreciated again compared to last year. Just let people pour their heart out. Just let them do it. And speaking of pouring your heart out, we need to heart out. Gotta pour your heart. Hey, you like apples? Here's you like hearts. Here's my heart. All right, here's my. Speaking of heart, we need to protect Amir Satvat with all of our hearts and everything, because that dude, I didn't know who that dude was until they did this TGA Game Changer Award, which was absolutely wholesome, and I didn't know who this guy was, and they, he explained what he did, and you could just tell he was, he's probably a bit introverted and shy, and he was on stage just with the sick ass Zelda leather jacket, by the way.
Great jacket.
Just a great jacket, and just everything he was saying just felt so pure and like good, and like he's just like, I just want to help people, and it's like we need more. Like, again, I'm not trying to be all mushy, whatever, but I am also, because I don't give a shit.
This was like the only way to address that problem, in my opinion. There is like he said, like Jeffy was, we don't know how to talk about this, so we just
Jeff,
like we're gonna try and address it, and like this is our new Game Changer Award, and it's so easy because of past award shows to be like, oh, this is the segment I'm gonna get up and make a sandwich at, like it's one of those things where it's just like, here's take a look at this community member who's doing this thing, and it's like, I don't know this person, like this doesn't really impact me. This guy is impacting the whole industry. 3,000 jobs, like doesn't sound like a lot, but like it is. That's a lot of people he's helping.
Well, what was the number they said? 34,000 people got laid off this year, I think they said.
Maybe.
I think they did say that. Yeah,
it was 34,000.
So he's just making a dent, but like it's a dent that matters, and like this is an ongoing service that he's like offering for free, because he's like some kind of data savant, and he's just like, I'm gonna use my superpower of data to like help. Coolest guy ever. Want to give that guy a kiss on his bald forehead. Was super into his whole vibe, his Earthbound shirt and his leather Zelda jacket.
Yeah, it was an
Earthbound shirt. I mean, the whole look of it. So
it all worked.
He's one of us.
It all worked. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the length of it was fine. I think having those special moments like that one was really good. They didn't do too many of the I don't care about this segments. They had a few.
They didn't. Yeah, they had a few, but they weren't as long, and they weren't as pretentious.
I agree. Like they did have one where they interviewed a lady. I totally did the get up and go do something and come back, and I don't know what she even talked about. Like some developer was talking about something, I didn't pay attention. And then there was a girl who sat there and played Tales of the Shire. I walked away during that one.
Right. Yeah.
But otherwise, most of the only things I didn't really care about were the commercials. But I also in my head, I'm like, this is how you pay for something like this.
You have to.
Oh, sure. You have to.
This is the money. Yeah.
I get all those things. I
like that there is built-in time to be like, I can go to the bathroom now. I can check my phone real quick.
I kind of wish they would designate all the Hoyoverse or whatever that's called to the ad segments, because the way they make him talk about it as if he loves these. Maybe he loves them, but it just
Let's come on. Can we just dig in here? Let's dig into this topic.
Can we?
There are too many free-to-play anime games.
Yeah,
there's too many of them.
What's happening?
There's too many of them.
Well, Kyle Bossman did like a thing of it, like.
Well, and to do them all in one like because they were they kind of were all back to back, and I actually hated that more. Like I don't mean I wanted it like spread out. Don't pepper it throughout. I don't want to see them at all if I had a choice, But like, and I know I'm not the demographic for that or whatever, even though I'm into anime and I like RPGs. But like, screw all these games. It's insane that there's so many of them. I was watching Lawrence and Bruce from Insider Games, like they were doing a drinking game stream or whatever, and one of their rules is you take a shot for every games as a service game.
Oh my gosh.
I swear to God, like Lawrence, like you couldn't even understand Lawrence by the end of like that segment. I do, guys, take another shot. So I was like 7 shots back to back right there because like there were so many like, and like, it's too much, man. And like you said, like watching Jeff talk about those games is so like painful, like I know it pays the bills, and I know he's
you
just
can tell
like,
he doesn't care.
All games are games, and I'm just here to talk about, like, I know for a fact that guy doesn't go home and play those games,
They are like I said, like Kyle Bossman did like a skit, an episode of it, and it's like they are legitimate. He said it in there, and it's very 100% like they're just all blurring together. They're legitimately like if you played them back to back, and they have the scene where like the character gets unveiled and they're swooshing around and swinging their sword and there's like whatever effects happening behind them. It's like, so which game is this? Because if you just play them back to back to back, that character that's popping up on screen, it's like,
and
so
they're
which
very
one?
slightly themed. Like this, like Genshin's fantasy and Honkai is sci-fi, and this one's
Yeah,
got robots, and this one's got. But it's all crossing over. They're all crossing over. Yeah, but they somehow still bleed together, even though I don't know, man.
Yeah, they're just all the same. Like it's all the same.
And it is insane to put them back to back to back to back to back.
Now,
like it was just like. I can't believe they're doing another one.
That's something I'd love to see them change. Either put them in the ads or get rid of them. But that being said, I also understand you probably get a lot of money for that because those companies pay.
Well, those games make a lot. Those games make money. They're free to play games,
right,
but they make money.
I'm guessing the companies pay up for that. Those spots. So I get it. We don't want just to add. We want Jeff to talk about it. And okay, all right, got it. So, but I don't like those. And I would say, in my opinion, and I understand why they do it. This is just me. If you disagree, that's totally fair. I don't think this is the show where you even need to have the esports categories because they're already throwaway categories that are barely mentioned.
Yeah.
So it's like, have that as its own award show. Let there be a whole esports show.
Like maybe like if you want to tune into a pre show that's on a different channel completely, that's like we're going to talk about
all esports.
Esports.
Here's
awards,
highlights from the year or whatever.
Don't care, but the people who do care, they can watch that 30-minute block.
Yeah. So that one. The thing is like. I know there are a lot of people who care about that, and
it's part of gaming culture. That night is a part of celebrating gaming culture. I get it, but it is,
But because it's now treated the same as like best mobile game, it's like, okay, all right. I guess we're just gonna throw it in there. Like we're gonna read it off real quick in between ads. Like okay,
and I'd rather it there than spend any more time because remember they used to bring those people up.
They brought them up. I know.
Yeah. Ugh. So maybe we keep on changing in the right direction. We just phase it out.
Yeah. I just don't need it personally. That's just me though. And I also do think they need a couple of categories added. Definitely need some sort of DLC category.
Yeah. They need a best shooter category.
Even like a remake or remaster. I know this is me saying because
remaster for sure.
We use these categories, but I think they're great because it gives you a chance to let something shine that already did shine years ago, but now it's resurfacing for good reason. Like. That's one of the reasons why I had trouble with something like I wouldn't want Resident Evil 4 from like was that last year to have won best game of the year. I love Resident Evil 4 and the remake was brilliant. I had a blast with that game. It is my favorite remake that year. It is not my favorite game of 2023 or whatever year that was. Yeah. So and that's just me. That's I realize that's just my own personal hiccup, but I feel like DLC, Shadow of the Earth Tree, Blood and Wine, Phantom Liberty, these are all excellent pieces of content that need some way to shine with their own award. So kind of shoehorning them in with new games feels unfair to all the other new games. And it kind of feels unfair to these things too, because now they're put in a negative light. I was listening to you guys talk a bit about like, oh, stupid Earth Tree. And I'm sitting there going like, I hear what you're saying, but Earth Tree freaking rocks. It's like one of the best pieces.
It's not a dig at the quality at all.
I know it's not. I know you guys weren't digging on it, but with all the negativity with like Erdtree, I don't even care about Erdtree. I want to acknowledge Erdtree. Ugh, get Erdtree out of here. I'm like, that sucks for the people who made Erdtree and love it, because
it does.
Sure.
Now it's just
you're opening up a door for unnecessary negativity that is just up for scrutiny that could just be solved by just adding another category.
Yeah. New category.
And sure, like it's gonna win, but like that's okay. Like people wanted it to win so bad. They wanted it in the real award, so why? You know what I mean? Why not give it a freebie award? You know,
I'm wondering if Keighley thinks it's like a time thing. Like, well, now we got to carve out 10 minutes, 15 minutes for this new category.
Like for the esports.
Just remove esports and fit that in there. Like,
I agree.
So,
but to me, that'd be a major improvement. And of course, my last thing, and I say this all the time, I really think the timing is wrong. There's something about it being in December that I understand is fun. We're building up to the holidays. It makes sense. Advertising wise, it's probably the very best. I'm sure that's why a lot of advertisers and publishers love it. But as far as gaming releases, I still don't see why it's not a January show. I just don't understand why it doesn't happen in January. But anyway, and I know that some years you won't get anything in December. I understand that. Like December can be empty, but that's the way it was traditionally. I think now we get something almost every December, something significant.
But that also gives the November games time to breathe, so then they can include that in the award show. So you have enough time to play them and everything. So
I know there's not a love for Final Fantasy 15, but that game missed the cutoff by like a day or 2 days or something.
Oh, did it? Year.
Okay. Yeah. So I think it was nominated for Best RPG and didn't win the next year.
Sure.
So it's an awkward inclusion. Like Indie might be nominated for Best Action Adventure next year or whatever, and probably won't win because there's going to be
whatever
unless it pops big on PS5 in May.
Pop big on PS5. That's true.
Pop big. Yeah.
I would love for it to get something because it's such a good game. But anyway, all right. Let's talk about some of the announcements and trailers from this thing. There is a good number of these. I clearly didn't write them all down. There were too many, and a lot of them were repeat things that we've seen before. And some of them were just things I just do not care about. So if I miss something, let me know. But I know a good amount of these are things that at least the three of us, and I know for sure some of our viewers or listeners care about. So we'll pause on a few of them. Number one, from the developers of both Blasphemous, and I think they're teaming up with the team who made Ninja Turtles Shredder and Streets of Rage 4. If I understood that correctly, I think these teams are teaming up together to make a new Ninja Gaiden game called Ragebound. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound.
That's pretty cool.
Which is it looks great.
We're never going to get a third. We're never going to get a 3D Ninja Gaiden again. So why not go this route? You know?
Why not go this route? That's right. That's right. So that one looked really cool. That was a nice announcement during kind of like the opening, whatever the pre-show.
It was literally like the first thing. It was just like, oh, here, it's a Ninja Gaiden game.
When they showed this VR game called One Move Away, I just started dying laughing. I was like, this looks like Unpacking, but worse.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Yes. 3D Unpacking.
Because it's not even like a house. You're just loading up a car. I don't know. Something about
there's probably, I'm going to guess it's probably different scenarios, maybe. It's not just always a car.
I don't want to know. You know what? Don't tell me.
I won't be surprised.
Slay the Spire 2 is coming out in early access next year, and a lot of people love that first game. Dave the Diver, I think it is DLC, but it could be a spin-off game. I don't know. It's called Dave the Diver in the Jungle, and it said late 2025.
Apparently, it's not clear if it's one or the other.
Nobody
knows. Yeah.
Okay. Because
I feel like DLC makes sense.
The DLC.
I think it's an expansion, like the Godzilla stuff or whatever, but maybe more substantial.
They put that stuff out quicker though, so this
feels. They did,
like,
and they were small. They were just like maybe a couple interactive type things. So I think it was just like a bigger version of that.
This looks like he's totally relocating.
Yeah, because they're in a boat, like sailing, going off somewhere.
All the main characters gather together and go to a new location. So it seems different. But anyway, I love Dave the Diver. Now this new game from this co-op. Maybe it's not co-op. Maybe it's competitive. This stealth heist game from Warren Spector, Thick as Thieves. The cinematic trailer that appeared to maybe have gameplay, but I couldn't tell if it was just cinematic version of the gameplay. It did look really stylish and cool. I just don't really care for these kind of games personally, but it did look cool. Like maybe if you like stuff like Payday and whatever else, it could be a lot of fun. I don't know.
Well, I mean, like it's like a stealth game, sneaking in and trying to avoid the NPCs, but other people are also doing that and you're trying to steal something. Yeah, and setting up traps and
could be a good streamer game too.
Yeah, that could be really fun. Yeah.
Now, this is one that I think has gotten overlooked a little bit. Not a lot of people have talked about it, but it's from Bandai Namco. It's this action platforming game called Shadow Labyrinth, and I totally spelled it wrong. That's funny. This is me typing quickly while doing other things. I switched the Y and the I. Anyway,
I remember that.
But yeah, Shadow Labyrinth looks awesome. It reminds me a little bit of something like Sundered, which is a game that I've always loved.
Oh, we had the Pac-Man thing.
It has this Pac-Man thing follow you, and then it turns big.
Literally Pac-Man.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is this? Now, Shadow Labyrinth, of course, Pac-Man's in a maze, and it's Bandai Namco. Is there some weird Pac-Man tie-in here, or is that just like I don't know. Anyway. The game does look really cool, though. There's a new game from the Core Keeper devs, which, by the way, Core Keeper, that game slaps. I love that game. But this one's called Kiora, and it looks very much like Terraria, but with Core Keeper graphics. It looks like co-op survival side-scrolling game. Rematch, one of the biggest misdirects of the night was from the makers of Sifu.
And even showed the master. Even showed the master.
I know. And then it showed a guy
into a football player.
And then it showed a guy with like the man bun, and I thought for a second, like, is it like a kung fu tournament? Because it seemed to be some sort of arena that he was going to walk into. And then I saw soccer, and I was, soccer.
It was about right.
Now,
guys, can you believe we're getting Human Rocket League?
That's what it looks like. It looks like
Human Rocket
League. Yeah.
Which is so funny to me. But anyway. So who knows? That might be good. I don't know. So Lasta 2 looks like it is absolutely taking multiple pages from Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
Coming into early access next year. I'm not familiar with that IP at all, but yeah, it looked very much like they're trying to be Baldur's Gate 3, which, hey, that might pay off if it's good. And then we got other stuff too, but the next one I want to jump to is one of the early trailers of the night. Was Keighley coming out and talking about how there's this from these developers, they have unexpected narrative twists and turns and all this, and I truly was not sure who they were talking about. I actually for a moment thought, oh, this is Naughty Dog, because they're very narrative driven. I wasn't really sure.
Well, they even said like a previous game of the year award.
Previous
winner,
game of the year. So
I was like,
kind of thinking Naughty Dog. I'm not really sure. I know they have a new IP, and this looks like it's a forest, like a creepy forest. It wasn't until the girl who is going to be sacrificed in the trailer stands up and they put the thing on it. She starts to walk out. I was like, oh my word, this is like for real The Witcher. Like there are probably things before that I could have noticed and heard.
I feel like I noticed way late on that one. Whereas other ones that we'll get to, I'm like, got it right away. This one I was like, I don't know. I don't think I wanted to give in. I don't think I wanted my heart to like sing. You know,
it was. I felt with Animush
until you saw the person with the hood with the two swords, and it was like, okay,
it should have been pretty obvious when she was cleaning her sword, like in the forest, like that should have been like the key indicator. You know, but like I don't know. I wouldn't let my heart sing. So
so Witcher 4 came out. Not only did they announce it, we got to see our new main protagonist, who is Ciri, which, by the way, if you haven't played the third game, if you haven't watched the TV show, if you just missed all this, then maybe it wouldn't make sense to you. But if you've kept track with Witcher stuff at all, Ciri as the main protagonist in the game, I'm not saying this if you're a book fan, maybe in the books it doesn't make as much sense, but in the game,
she's like literally the second main character in the books too. So
that's what I thought.
That's what I've heard. I've only read some of the short stories. So
yeah. So anyway, Ciri as the main character, and they show a lengthy cinematic trailer. If you go back, you could always go back and watch the old Witcher 3 reveal trailer from like 2011 or something.
Yeah.
12, whenever that was.
It's one where like kills a big monster, put its head on his horse, rides to town. Is it that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's a woman getting hanged, and he stops to and I can't remember if it's that one.
I'm pretty sure
Battlefield. I'm pretty sure it's where a woman's about to get hanged, and Vesemir is telling him just take the money and get out of here, and then he
similar,
stops.
yes, very parallel
very
to this one, then,
similar, where it's like, why are you still here? This isn't your business, and so I like if you go back and watch it. The parallels are really interesting between the two.
By the way, to tell a story in the trailer and go, oh yeah, these guys are the best at telling vignette stories.
Yeah,
like because like you get a like nice little story, and by the time it's done, you're like, oh, these assholes,
Yeah,
and like it's Unreal 5, right? So that's like that's in engine, like that's that's not like that's not a like a
assuming we're
CG.
Also probably 2027, 2028, out with that game, if I had to take a guess. But like, I don't think we're waiting as long as we did for. Remember when Cyberpunk came out? Like the trailer, it was just like the Mantis girl, and it was basically like almost like still art. Like it was not even like a CG trailer.
Yeah,
it's like this was more than that. They obviously had vibe set down. They have your character. Like there wasn't even a main character in that Cyberpunk.
Was there like
trailer.
5 years or something from that trailer to the game, or was it more than that?
What, Cyberpunk?
Or yeah, I think it was like 8.
Oh, Cyberpunk is like almost a decade. We were getting close to a decade.
It might have been 10. Yeah, you might be right about that. Yeah, so it's like I don't think we're waiting that long for this game. I think that this game is real far along. We forget that like Cyberpunk actually did come out in 2020 at the end of 2020. So it's like they've had about 3 years working on this game. Not a full team, obviously, but like the irons have been cooking. So like I could see this game coming out in 2026 at the earliest. I think it's gonna be 2027, but pumped. This trailer was great. Screamed the entire time I was playing.
It told a great story. I think the little hints that you got here and there of number one, we mentioned this earlier in the show, but okay, so Ciri is at least operating as a Witcher now. She clearly has some sort of mutation going on because of her eyes. They wanted you to know that.
She drinks a potion, which are poisonous.
Drinks a potion. Yep. So, like, okay, she's Witchering it up right now. So how, why, what's going on? Lots of stuff to figure out there. But also, she's clearly older. And now I'm really fascinated. Like, I wonder if it's going to be like Geralt, where she's like way older than you think. Like a Strider, where you're like, hey, she's actually like 90. And she looks like she's maybe mid 30s to mid 40s range in this trailer.
Sure.
Whereas of course in the game she was like what, 18, 20? She was really,
like early 20s maybe. Yeah.
So this seems like, hey, this girl's she's seen some stuff,
Yeah, she's
people who are complaining like she doesn't look the same. Like, the time has passed. Like she's
older. That's how
first of all
that works.
She still looks awesome. And if you're worried about
her character design is so cool, man. Yeah.
You're crazy, but like she's still attractive. She still looks really cool. She's got the scars, she's got the powers, like shut up.
I think that's the same people in the camp of just not realizing that she's an important character and was in the last game. Like, and how young she was in that game too.
She was the reason for everything that happened in the last game. Like, she was
the plot of the
she's the plot.
The entire plot.
And then at the end, she becomes the main like. Oh my word! She could destroy all of us if she wanted. Like
you play as her in the last game.
Right.
Like we're not even bearing the lead on that. Like she was already a playable character. Like
The one thing that I kind of wish they did, but maybe this won't be a gameplay feature. Her ability to do these quick teleports was so awesome in that game. I kind of had hoped at some point when it was pinning her against the wall, I actually thought she's gonna teleport up above it. Like I thought there was gonna be a moment where she would like zap above it. She didn't. She used a Witcher power to get out of that.
If maybe going through the Witcher process maybe muted some of her elder blood, or maybe something like that. I'm trying to think.
Maybe there's a whole thing with that too. Maybe it kind of like we go through the journey of her figuring all that out. So
maybe it comes back. Maybe it's a Spider-Man 2 losing his web.
Oh, she like suppressed it somehow.
Yeah. Maybe it's Luke cutting himself off from the Force. Like whatever.
Maybe she lost control of it and something bad happened, and so she chooses not to use it.
How Ciri gets her groove back. How Ciri gets her.
That's right.
They should totally call it that. Witcher 3's Wild Hunt. Witcher 4 is How Ciri Gets Her Groove Back. No one will hate that title. Everyone will love it.
No, they'll love it.
I'm with you. I'm very hyped for it. Just like with some other games we'll talk about, it absolutely made me want to like, all right, replaying Witcher 3 now. Like the
bottom line is when this comes out, lots of people are gonna play it. So like all these people that are being whiny little man children are all right, this game's sick.
You can't announce a game or give an award to a game. You can't do anything without a portion of the audience being really mad about it.
Sure. Some people exist just to be mad. That's fine, baby.
I would encourage you. There's some good articles out there on both sides of the opinion of whether or not she could or should or whatever be a Witcher. It's consistent with the books or not. There's some really good arguments. I found it really interesting actually to read the different, like, here's what we think, here's our theories. We're in theory mode right now. You just have to wait and see what they do with the game.
Love theory mode.
So we're in that mode of like kind of like when you see a Final Fantasy VII, whatever the next one's called trailer, Dan's gonna be like, all right, here's what's gonna happen. He becomes Charlie with the board, like, here's what's happening. But anyway, there's lots of cool stuff. And then that lore is incredible, so I'm excited to see what they do there. And then back-to-back announcements. It was crazy.
Yeah, this block was insane.
They pivoted right into an announcement that right when Jeff got his classic like, I cry when I talk about FromSoft games.
Sure.
Face on.
Sure.
And then it cut to the Bandai Namco thing. And you could tell everyone's like, what? Like that looked like the Elden Ring scenery. Is this a Dark Souls 4? Like, what are they announcing?
Yeah, I must have for the majority of this trailer go, is it this? Is it Dark Souls? Is it Elden Ring? Was it like I just kept on going back and forth because like you would see Dark Souls like enemies and bosses like there too. So it's like it's just
what is this?
I couldn't figure out what was going on. I felt like my brain was melting a little bit.
So Elden Ring's only 2 years old. The Erdtree DLC's 6 months old. Like it barely came out. So a sequel or another DLC just seemed so out of the question. And they had just talked about how like, we're not doing this anymore. Yeah. But now we know it is Elden Ring Night Reign, which is a standalone title. It's being built as a $40 game, by the way, is what I'm hearing.
Oh, I didn't hear that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's not a full price game. Yeah.
So it's being built as a co-op roguelike type experience where you do a run with co-op buddies. Either you know them or you don't. Doesn't matter. You can do randos if you want to. There's a set class selection that has their own special moves and ultimate attacks, like the fly up in the air and slam down. Like, so you kind of have a class, maybe even a character that's named, I'm not sure, that you pick from, and then you team up with others to go through this game. Now, we don't know how big it is. They're already saying it's the same size as Limgrave, the initial area of Elden Ring.
Oh, wow.
But they said that about Shadow of the Erdtree, which if you guys played that, especially if you found all the areas, that game was like 3 times the size of Limgrave. So they said it was that big, and it's way.
They undersold.
Okay.
I like that.
Wow.
They undersold.
Yeah, Erdtree is Erdtree. Had it been a standalone release, like think Uncharted Lost Legacy, I would have been arguing with you guys why it deserves to be on the. I would have been, because it's that good, but it's not. It's a DLC. So anyway, because it's just so massive. It's Blood and Wine. Like same with Witcher 3, Blood and Wine. I would have been like, that's the best game of 2016. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I would have had no problem with that. But it was DLC. But anyway, so Night Reign, I know it's going to be divisive in some ways. On the other side, you could look at it as, hey, it's more Elden Ring content if you want it. You don't have to play it though. Like it's meant to be a
and it might be, let's say if you didn't like Elden Ring, the key words that they're using here, the marketing words, this is a different experience. So it's like this might be like, oh, I was just knocking on the door being into that game. What maybe this is that like thing that needed to change, That's
a good point. Yep. Yeah. Yep. And they are planning it for 2025. It's just one of those things where it's not meant to be from what I can tell, an in-depth RPG with builds, and it's not meant to be a big open world with the same level of exploration from what I can tell.
Like I said a couple episodes back, Miyazaki like straight up was just like, yeah, we're working on multiple things. Some things I'm directly got my hands on, some I don't. And I mean, this is clearly one of those things. So.
They did confirm that in some interviews afterwards that it's actually one of their other directors heading this up.
Okay.
So
makes sense.
And I think it's mostly being driven by some of their, I don't know where I read this or heard this, some of their younger talent. Okay. So, which is actually, I like when you do, like Nintendo does this sometimes where they'll let their crew, they created Splatoon, which again, not my game, but it became a really popular IP for them because they let some of their other talent go after something. And so, so they're exploring what they've even described internally as, hey, it's kind of a new genre for us. So they're not even describing it the same as a Souls-like game. So it's going to be different, although a lot of the visuals were clearly the same. They're bringing in enemies from multiple FromSoft titles, obviously, mostly Elden Ring, but it seemed that clearly some other notable enemies had an appearance. So. And also in that same block, we saw that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is coming to PC in January. Just in 1 month, it's going to be on PC. That's huge.
That's not huge. Even a year since the initial release. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's a bit.
That's where it's hurt, man. I mean, they're like, dude, we need to make money on this game. You know, like.
Yeah.
They got trapped in that exclusive deal, and I guess it wasn't as strict as the last one because I know Rebirth was Remake was a lot longer to come out on PC. So.
Yeah. I don't know what the contractual setup is between them and Square or them and Sony, but like if it is possible, and I mean maybe they are working on it, but like they need to port Remake and Rebirth to Xbox.
They need to put them in the same. They just wait. I guess just at this point, wait till the third one comes out, package them all together, and just give it to Xbox. They deserve it. Like people need to be playing the series. Like it's insane that like Sony scooped this one up and whatever.
Yeah. Let it make all the money.
Yeah. I agree. Then we got a teaser trailer for the creator of the new game from the creator of Eco, Shadow of the Colossus, Last Guardian. I mean, I love Shadow of the Colossus and Last Guardian.
Great developer, yeah.
And the teaser was exactly that. It teased out what looks really compelling, really interesting. This character climbing up a giant mech, kind of Shadow of the Colossus style, getting in there, and there's a countdown the whole time. And then they pan up and show you this wave of static wind, something coming your way. And I was like, dude, this is foreboding. This is cool. And then he launches up to escape it, and this head that detaches from the mech. So all of it was so compelling. And that was it. That was pretty much and then the wind just blows everything away. It's like, what the heck happened? What is this? So
hopefully this doesn't take a decade as well.
Because
speaking of,
I mean, it's still called Untitled Project. So
So
no title yet, and just that little teaser. But it's kind of cool. I have been wondering, like, what is that team working on? It's been a while since we've heard.
Yeah, same here. I was kind of worried they were going to get closed down or something. To be
Last
honest.
Guardian was what, 2016?
Yeah. Jesus.
Right? So
was it?
I think so. The Outer Worlds 2 got a new trailer. Lots of gameplay. Still scheduled for 2025.
They're coming on PS5 immediately. Thought that was awesome.
Day and date on PS5.
Like Xbox, I love that they're doing this where it's like, obviously Obsidian Avowed coming out next year as well, only on Xbox. But they're like, you know what? The first one was on other consoles. This is an all console franchise.
Yeah.
I think that's cool. They're sharing their toys a little bit here,
In this case, Phil Spencer was being honest. It's a case-by-case basis.
And it is. Even for the developer. It's not even saying like this developer is a multi-platform developer. It's like, I don't know. It's a great tactic.
Yeah.
How crazy is it they're putting 2 games out in 1 year? Like, that's insane to me.
Yeah.
It's assuming they both make it, right?
But I mean, I can see Outer Worlds getting pushed to next year or
they're still leaning hard into like the meta humor with the narrator talking about like real life things in the game. And I understand that doesn't work for everybody. I still like the vibes of this game.
It's very cheeky. I like it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Split Fiction. This is from the guy who did It Takes Two and Way Out. I think was the other one. Was it called Way Out?
Yep. Way Out. So good.
Like really creative co-op games. And Brothers, Tale of Two Sons.
Tale of Two Sons, yeah.
Which is not a co-op game, but you play it as one person like it's a co-op game.
It feels like a co-op game. It's a co-op hand game.
Very creative. Yeah, your 2 hands got to work together. But I thought Split Fiction looks promising. I'll put it that way. It could be like, this just doesn't feel right, doesn't play well. Okay, fair enough. But it's these 2 female characters who get stuck in a simulation they helped to create, but they write about very different topics, so the 2 different worlds. And he named the girls after his daughters, which I'm like, oh, come on, so. And he is such a colorful, weird dude.
Yeah, he's just so full of energy. I'm
really
like, I'll try your game, buddy, and it'll probably be on Game Pass if I had to guess at some. Like,
it reminds me of it.
This is another bot. You buy one version, you buy one and share it with a friend, like type of game too. So
that's
like, talk about the friendliest co-op game ever. This is one of my favorite announcements of the nights, and a night full of great announcements. I love this guy's games. He's never missed for me, and like this looks great. And I love the idea of like, well, did I want to make a fiction game or a fantasy game? He's like both at the same time, like.
True.
And it comes out in 3
I love
months,
it.
By the way. It comes out in March 6th.
That's shocking. 3 months. That's insane. Yeah, it's so crazy to me.
When did it take? When did that one game of the year?
2021.
Yeah, 2021.
Yeah. So.
About
3 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
4 years by the time it comes out. Yeah.
But it seems like it has similar energy as far as like, because that game had a lot of like different mechanics and different things that you were doing in it.
I will say it does just look like It Takes Two with a lean into a theme or themes.
Yeah.
Fiction and fantasy.
Well,
but
it looks like a mix
thing.
between that and Way Out, because Way Out is a little more realistic with like adult characters, right? Whereas,
yeah,
like actual people.
But I guess what I mean by that, in a Way Out actually fits this mold too. So that is very correct. But like everything that you're doing is different from the last thing you just did.
True.
A Way Out was like that. It Takes Two was like that. Kind of brothers, but you're still kind of always just kind of controlling both brothers. But like you are doing different. I'm sliding this time. I'm doing this. But I do like that where he does the promise again, like he does for It Takes Two. It's like you're never going to do the same thing twice in this
Mixing
game.
up the gameplay.
It's all new ideas. Yeah, it's all clever stuff. And yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's like has this whole market unlocked to me. This like couch co-op.
I'm surprised there haven't been.
You gotta have a buddy to play this game. You can't.
There haven't been really many any like copycats of this.
No, he's just he's competing against himself at this point.
Yeah. So Split Fiction comes out on March 6th, which was kind of cool to see because a lot of these games either didn't get a release date or it said 2025 or whatever. But
yeah, a lot of that GTA looming. We're not going to give a date right now. Vibes going on. All 2025 all night was just like 2025. Sometimes it said late 2025 or summer 2025, but like no one wanted to commit to anything. It seemed like
even the occasional 2026.
We saw a couple of those.
Which we'll get to that.
I didn't see one for a game that I did not expect. It was not my bingo card. It was Turok Origins.
I forgot about that one.
And so it's this third-person action game from Saber. I mean, who knows if it's any good, but it looked really cool. Like
I
some
love
of the stuff
Turok, and I'm willing to try it, and I think changing its perspective is a good idea.
I think so too.
Yeah,
and it's clearly that cool mix between prehistoric dinosaurs, but also like modern sci-fi tech and like I mean, Turok was such a unique game on the 64. I loved it. We also got another look at Borderlands 4. We got an idea of what some of the characters are going to look like that you get to choose, some of the classes you'll get to pick in that game. It looks like more super fun, stylish Borderlands.
If you like Borderlands, you're probably going to like this. I will say, and I like this trailer, safe trailer.
Very safe.
If they have a template, gameplay, we're gonna play like a fun song that's gonna be played on everyone's Spotify here. We're gonna show you the characters. We're gonna do some kind of CG, like walk in or whatever to the story. Super safe, super templated. It's not really a criticism, just more of an observation.
I agree. Yeah, that's why it was hard for me to like highlight that as like, oh, we got to talk Borderlands 4. It's like, let's see if it actually arrives.
Like I don't know what the classes are. We saw the 4 characters, but it's just like
Is it still
definitely
a similar
like I'm excited
loop?
To see more.
Is it still a similar gameplay loop? Is it still?
They didn't say
really
a bajillion guns.
Focused?
I was actually kind of shocked that
they show that scene where the guns were raining off a ledge or something.
They did show it, but like they love to say that bajillion, whatever word they made up, whatever number, like a gajillion or something like that. Yeah, they didn't do that.
So that's also slated for 2025. We didn't get a release window for this one, but it's one of the more mysterious ones that I'm really fascinated by, called Project Century. It's from the Yakuza developers. It's the one that's set like in 1915 Japan or something. I was like,
they show you like right off the bat. They just show you RGG like right off the back, and I'm like, and I didn't stop until it was over. It's so cool, man. And they didn't say they were working on a new IP. I mean, the last thing I heard is that they have a game coming out already, Like a Dragon Majima Pirate Edition or whatever. They said they're working on, like, we want to make a Judgment 3. At some point, obviously, we make, Like a Dragon 9. I don't think anybody knew they were working on a new IP, and if they did, I was not privy to it. So this shocked me. And it looks like a period piece. How big is this team? It looks martial artsy. I don't know, again, like
that you don't see a lot though, too. It's a unique setting.
It is unique. Yeah, absolutely. I could see
pre-World War II Japan, but not so far back. Like it's got
not samurai, like it's.
And it had like a almost gritty filter over it.
Yeah,
like I don't know.
It looked like a Hong Kong. I thought it looked like a Hong Kong action flick. The game.
There
were moments where I literally said, "Is this Sleeping Dogs 2?" And I'm not even kidding you.
Right, of course. I kind of it's almost like you don't get a whole lot of Prohibition era Japanese settings. You know what I mean? Like it's that early 1900s. Like you don't see that a whole lot. So anyway,
this looks so cool.
And RGG, speaking of things that they're working on, they were also working on a new Virtua Fighter game. So like,
oh my god,
what are y'all doing?
Yeah.
What are y'all doing?
How big is this team?
How big is this team? I want to know. I don't even know the answer to that, Dan. Yeah,
they only work. They don't do anything else. They only work.
Yeah.
And then we got. I think it took us a minute to realize exactly what we were seeing.
I'll go there first. I
got there immediately. I don't know. We'll get there.
As we started to see these we saw a samurai setting. Boom! I was like, okay, another samurai game. Is this Assassin's Creed Shadows? Ubisoft finally showing their face? Like, are they doing a new trailer? But then it started these red orbs floating around. Is that when you got it, Kyle?
I got it right at the red orb, and it's the same thing I did with what is that game that came out that was like the tower defense Capcom game? Kunitsu.
The goddess one?
Kinitsugami
goddess one, yeah. Like that trailer opened up with the orbs too, and I was like, Onimusha! So I've done this before.
Yeah.
When I
so you've been wrong before.
Loud,
that's why it didn't fully commit.
When I screamed it out loud, it was coming from a place of an emotional reaction, not a Kyle is smart and observant, like...
It was more of a begging yelling.
Yes, yeah.
So it's like 80% there.
I didn't know... I had that like deja vu feeling. I feel like I've seen these orbs before, but it wasn't till I saw in the shadows. You see the guy with the gauntlet on, and the orbs start absorbing into. I was just like, oh, Onimusha. And I had a moment where I actually thought, like, is this a remake of 3 or 2, or like I was like, are they remaking one?
It seems new. Because
that
was Samanosuke, right?
I got some infos.
So it's called Onimusha Way of the Sword, and it comes out in 2026. What are they saying about it?
Shocking. Monster Hunter and Onimusha in 1 year from Cat. Like,
how big is this team, Kyle?
What is going on? How big are these teams, Dan?
How big are these
How many teams are there?
There's so many teams.
Yeah.
So I actually did a little research because, like, as much as I like love Japan and all stuff Japan, I don't actually know a lot about like all the different time eras. So I was like Googling around, like, what is it, Edo versus Sengoku and all that, just to do a little research here. But where is it? All right, so Way of the Sword is set in Kyoto in the early Edo period. So this is after the trilogy. So this takes place after the trilogy.
Would be after the unification.
So it's a brand new story.
Via Nobunaga.
All right, so here we go.
After he unifies Japan, like I'm pretty sure the Edo period starts right after that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So the nefarious malice has transformed the historic city into a dark, twisted haven for the return of the demonic Genma, which are the samurai zombies that plague the original series. But yeah, it's a sequel, so it's a new guy. Just seeing if there was anything else that they said specifically. It didn't seem like they did. This was on the PlayStation blog, but
okay.
Yeah, I mean, there was gameplay there. Like they showed that you could see that there was gameplay.
That's awesome.
I'm crossing my fingers for Jean Reno showing up. I'm just crossing them hard.
I literally. So once I realized it was Onimusha, I literally screamed, like just full on screamed. And I was on the couch. My wife was on the couch with me. Our cat was sitting on her lap, and my cat was like concerned, like just look. And my wife was like, "You need to stop screaming." And I was like, Onimusha. I couldn't stop.
Give me some space.
But I mean, dude, like, oh my
God, a long wait, but it's nice. It's cool that they revealed it. Like it's on. We know what's coming.
Onimusha, the first one was my first PS2 game. I bought a PS2. Onimusha Warlords was my first PS2 game.
I remember when someone pitched it to me, I didn't know what it was, and someone was like, "It's Resident Evil with zombies." I go, "Dude," or I'm sorry, Resident Evil with samurai.
Yeah,
and I go, "Oh, okay."
yeah. All right.
Yeah, all right. Played it immediately. That game was like 6 hours, super short.
Yeah, it's not super long. Yeah.
Love 2, love 3, love that whole series. Love the Super Smash Brothers game of it. Battle Lords or Battle Warrior. I forget what it's called. Onimusha.
Yeah, there's like a fighting game, right?
It's super good.
Very good. I never played that one. Dude, I love these games so much. It's survival horror samurai.
I never played the fourth one. Wasn't there a fourth one with like dual protagonists?
There was. Yeah, I played it. It was a good game. It was definitely because it was much later in the PS2 life cycle, so like it was pretty for a PS2 game. Yeah. But like and there's connections, but it's not like connections with like Samanosuke or Jubei or anything. Like it's new people, but it's connected to like the lore. Like there's a returning villain and stuff like that. But like I didn't feel that essence of that trilogy. You know what I mean? Like there was something missing. So yeah, I love these. I'm so happy.
Once we got to that, I started to think this might be the best Game Awards just in terms of announcements and surprises.
It was after this one I was like, we're in it now, guys.
Like, this
is going to be
because
one for the record.
We saw stuff that we expected, like Borderlands 4. Saw surprises, like small surprises, like Turok Origins or a new Ninja Gaiden game, or the Split Fiction, which we knew we were going to see his next game, and then crazy stuff like Onimusha and Witcher and another Elden Ring entry, like crazy. So.
Once things off the bingo card started showing up, I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on, and that continued the rest of the night, like, especially especially with the two zingers at the end that we'll get to.
I loved seeing release date for the first Berserker Kazan. I know this game isn't going to be for everybody. It's clearly going to be a very difficult Souls-like. They're not trying to shy away
the art style
what
in this
it
game
is
so much, though.
This is a family-friendly game, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. The Russo brothers are doing it, so of course it is, Dan.
Yeah.
They did the trailer. Excuse me.
No, this looks like insanely bloody, and I've seen a lot of gameplay of this too already. This game has been shown around a lot, and it shows off pretty well every time I see it.
Yeah, people are pretty hyped on this one.
And it's got a March 27th release date. So Q1 is starting to fill in, fellas. Not sure if you knew that.
Just a little bit.
Dying Light the Beast is slated for summer 2025. We knew about this game already, but I don't think they had given us a release window, so now it's summer. Stage Fright, co-op game from the Overcooked devs, looks cute and fun. Then there was one that I did not expect, which is a Shadows of Mordor looking Game of Thrones game called Kingsroad.
Yeah.
And I have no idea if it's going to be like Shadow of Mordor. It could be like one of those things where they're pulling the rug out from underneath you and you play it. It's actually like really bland, really like it's not an open world. Like maybe.
Both are WB, by the way, right?
Right.
The dev is a Korean dev, I'm pretty sure. That's like in the NC Soft kind of stable.
I was about to see if it was the same team.
Okay.
Yeah.
NC Soft is good. But it's not the Monolith. Was it Monolith? It's not the. I forget which team. It's something like some of the M that made those the Shadow of War and Mordor.
Sure that's what I was going to check.
But anyway, this looks like it could. I mean, we didn't really see what clearly gameplay, but you saw moments where he interacts with characters from the TV show, probably around 2nd to 4th season ranges of storyline wise, what's happening during Game of Thrones. So it looks like one of those things where it's happening parallel with the main show story.
Maybe like season 3, season 4. You know,
somewhere in that.
Maybe it takes place. Maybe it's an epic. Maybe it takes place over a large period of time. Yeah.
Like you're an older giant bearded dude with giant axes. I'm sure there's a background that you'll get from him. And he pretty much calls himself a nobody from the north or whatever. And that's why him and John connect because they're both these bastards.
They're both bastards. Yeah.
So
a lot of palling around with John in this trailer.
A lot of palling around.
They got the whole cast back too. Like everybody, Barry.
Like scanned them all in.
They're calling it a big action adventure game. Action RPG, I think I even saw floated around somewhere. So like, we'll see, man. We'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic for that one, just because I love.
I think after it came, I just want to know everything about that game because like I need to know if I need to be excited about it. Or not. Excited for the concept of it, but like I want to know. Like I don't know.
Tell me if I should care. Right. They're doing a Double Dragon Revive. Comes out October 23rd. I don't know. Something about that didn't really do much for me.
I hope this is good, but like, when's the last time a good Double Dragon game came out? You know, like
it was just a weird trailer. I don't know.
They always try this, like Double Dragon Neon, like every few years, like we get a new Double Dragon. They're never very good, but I think this is part of that, like that Sega revitalization. Like I didn't see the second game, I don't think, but like it kind of just feels like they're taking another stab at like making this a viable IP again. I don't know if this trailer.
Yeah, they're doing a bunch of different, like Sonic Racing. They had just a quick teaser for that too. So Sega's doing
literally Keeley was laughing when he did that too.
He's like, I know I just showed you nothing. Sorry about that. The Last of Us Part 2 is hitting PC on April 3rd this coming year. The remastered version or whatever hitting PC. So that's cool. And then we got a pretty lengthy trailer for Mafia: The Old Country, which is currently slated for summer 2025. They are, from what I've seen, from what I read, it's not being described as a big open world game, but more of a linear story they're telling. That doesn't mean there aren't going to be spaces for you to explore and do things, but if you played the original Mafia game, it
1 and 2 are
they're a little more linear.
The 1 and 2 are linear games in an open world.
Exactly.
And I think that's what this is going to be. Or maybe open area, you know, like where like, you know, maybe, but it, you know, it takes place in Sicily. Like maybe there's a whole town that you're in. I don't really know. Maybe it's the whole country. I don't really know. We don't know much about this.
I'm super in. It doesn't matter if it's linear.
So in, dude. There's so many people.
I know.
So ready. Took it off. You can't refuse. I'm so excited. Yeah.
I hope it just lets us do that. Can I hit up on the D-pad and go?
A lot of talk about family, like for the family and honor. I'm so excited, dude.
The cinematic storytelling in this trailer alone was like, they are crushing it with
the vibe of it is like what it exactly what it needs to be.
Yes. This is a game of the year contender for me. If
it says summer 2025. Do you think it'll hit the summer? I mean,
That's how long they've been
Hangar
working on it.
13 doesn't tend to do really big pushbacks, but like you never know these days, man. You know, like it could slip to November. I think it'll come out next year, though. I think it will.
There's this what looks like a Telltale style adventure game called Dispatch that's got Aaron Paul and Laura Bailey and a whole bunch of other actors in it. It looks really compelling. The art style looks cool. It looks like a lot of like dialogue choices, and just like looks like they're having fun. So I'm intrigued by this one. I will say, them coming up to talk about it was kind of playful, but then turned weirdly like, are these two into each other? Like,
dude, they were very like I thought they were gonna like make out like legitimately like.
And I googled it. I'm like, I'm pretty sure they're both married. Yep, they're both married. This is weird. This is weird. Like, I thought they were gonna kiss as part of the bit or something. It seemed really strange.
Yeah.
But anyway, also open bar in the back. Maybe he wasn't told like step back a minute before you do this little scene.
Sure.
I don't know. This is very close.
Hey, people deal with stage fright in different ways. You know, people get sauced up and go up there and go, "This is a mistake."
They do. I didn't mind the bit of like him being starstruck by her. Like it was fine. The bit was fine. But there just seemed there was a weird energy there that I was like,
yeah.
Like it's like, are these two about to like like are they gonna do it right now on stage? Like what is happening?
Like, it seems very strange. But anyway, but Dispatch looks like could be a fun game. And then we got one of the cooler intros for a game announcement was the live orchestra starting off with the big
drums. You always know it's got to be something, right? Like God of War has set us up to like go, here we go.
Yes.
He got really emotional with this too.
But then when you heard like that, I don't know the name of the instrument, that very Japanese sounding stringed instrument.
Yeah,
that
I can't think of it.
I thought Ghost of Yote. We're getting like a taste of that.
Especially when the drums came, I go, okay, we're getting Ghost of Yote, which I'm excited for, but I'm
excited for, but I was a little bit like, oh, okay. Which I know
it's a known, it's a known thing.
But then when it went to the perspective of something running fast, I was like,
and the paint,
Okami? And then the paint just kind of secured it. So there's an Okami, hilariously titled Okami sequel for right now.
Yeah, the sequel.
But they're just letting us know that the sequel's in the works and the original director is back.
Which is crazy because he doesn't work for Capcom anymore. Right?
Yeah, right. Clover Studio is the one who did this and Beautiful Joe and everything like that back in the day. And that closed down. Wonderful 101. Like they did.
Yes.
I think he worked on that game under Platinum. So like that studio got bounced around a lot, but like they closed down a long time ago, and now from its ashes comes Clover's. Same director, probably same same.
Gotta be some
team
same team members, right? Yeah.
And like they're doing Okami, which is like, this is insane. Like this game, this is a dead franchise. You know what I mean? Beloved. So long ago, back when the Game Awards were on Spike, this and Twilight Princess were up for Game of the Year. It was between these two. Twilight Princess ended up winning, I believe. Maybe Okami actually won. I forget, to be honest. But like, this is a game that was a big hit. I don't know if it sold well. Big hit though.
They remastered it. Like
it did. There's an HD version of it's on sale right now for $5, on PSN. So pick it up.
I'm gonna go buy it right now. I've never played it.
It's so good, dude. Yeah.
I've only started it a couple times. I never got super far into it, so I need to play it. But on CD keys it was like $7 for the PC version, so I grabbed that. So like I mentioned with Witcher, like when I saw the Witcher 4 trailer, I was like, I'm gonna go play it. I'm gonna go watch both seasons of the TV show. Like I
re-downloaded my copy of Okami to be like, I'm gonna.
And then I saw the Okami stuff, and I was like, I gotta play Okami. So yeah, the same way. Now I'm not gonna go play Black Desert. I gave that game a very brief try. It's not my thing, but I'm very interested to see what this developer does with Crimson Desert, which is slated for late 2025. I don't listen. We could all be getting absolutely snake oil salesman about this game.
Something about too much footage. There's too much footage.
It seems too good to be true. It really
does. There's like 45. Like there are multiple 45-minute videos of nonstop gameplay of this game. It would be the biggest grift in history if this game came out and it was just like, it's just a garbage Chinese.
What if it's the day before or whatever? What was that game?
Oh no.
There's good trailers on that too. So good point. Good point.
This is hyper realistic Breath of the Wild / Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah,
like it's hyper realistic that.
Yeah, but you're also riding dragons. I was like, Dragon's
it looks like Dragon's Dogma. It looks like
Dragon's Dogma. Yeah,
Witcher a little bit. There's a lot of things that it's saying, and it's just a giant open world action RPG. So
Yeah.
Boy, it looks
fascinated
really
by this one.
this
They're slated for late 2025 right now. This game has been teased a number of times.
Yeah.
I think for a couple years now. And it's been on my radar of like, what is this game? Will this be good? I don't know, maybe. And it's starting to become very real. And you're right, there's a lot of content about it. And then we had one final before they did the game award winner of Astrobot. They did one final reveal trailer. So for this one, it opened up with, a setting in space. We didn't see any logos of who made it for a while. It took a long time to realize.
I was spinning my wheels until they showed who was doing it. I didn't know. It
took a long time. The only time I got a hint was when the character puts in like a CD and it said Sony on the player.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, is this I thought like Naughty Dog, and there's a couple of others I wondered, like Media Molecule, like who else is working on stuff for, like I didn't know who was.
I got there actually pretty quick, only because I know that they had rumored that Naughty Dog is doing a sci-fi game. Like that's been rumored.
I don't know if I remembered that in the moment.
Yeah, because that's where my head went. Because I remember because whatever Keely was saying.
Keely was saying a lot of stuff, and I was doing the math. They're like, they've been working on this for like 5 years. They've been working on, this is a previous, Game of the Year, nominee. Like, blah blah blah. Like, I was just like, who hasn't shown up yet? And I was literally like doing like, who could it be? I didn't get it until like this one totally threw me off.
I remember them saying that.
Yeah. Well, it is it's a Naughty Dog game set in space. It's going to be character driven like they always are. It's going to have, probably amazing dialogue and cutscenes. And even in that cutscene that we saw, just cinematic trailer, that's all it was. But even just the animation and the realism in the face and the expressions, like it's like, man, they just do it so well. But the idea is that you are a bounty hunter who gets stranded on this planet, and that's kind of all we really know. That's a character driven action adventure game where you're stranded on a planet.
Folks, get your expectations in check. You're not jumping planets and ships in this game.
Correct.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
This is,
It seems like it's pretty localized.
And I looked at some of like what the developer was saying, and they were saying that it's as if in 1986 suddenly we hit like a point of singularity of exponential technological growth, and like fashion and tech and aesthetic all kind of just got stuck in 1986 to like 1992. And so, like, that's why you have, like, old school high top Adidas shoes. And
just watching anime, dude.
You have cool, like, like Porsche, absolutely. 1980s animation style anime is on
Porsche
TV,
was so funny. The Porsche spaceship, I was like, what
is the Porsche spaceship, but it's like, it looks kind of like an 80s, like, supercar, sports car, or something like that, Like, there's just a lot of, like, I like that. I like that they're like, hey, like, we have kind of an aesthetic here, and it's like, what if time just got stuck in like late 80s, early 90s, like aesthetic, and like I'm in, man. I like that whole like look of it,
Yeah.
The and music,
and then the synthwave.
I would be remiss to not mention this soundtrack being composed by Trent Reznor and
God, dude.
Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor. Yeah.
Dang. So the game is called Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. Not always a big fan of subtitles like that, because it's kind of like, I feel like until you play the game, you're like, what is this? Like, I'm okay with the title Intergalactic. Sure. That's just me, but it's fine. I am very intrigued to see them get out of their current IP world, which it's been since the first Last of Us, right? Since we got a new IP for them.
I think, as they said, it's their first new IP in 10 years. I think is what Jeff was saying.
Yeah. So obviously,
they like to stick around. So.
There's no release window for this. This is just a teaser trailer. This is probably also a few years away.
Also, maybe on the earlier side of those 3 years too, because they start again. We're talking like it's already in a 4-year dev cycle. So it's like, I would be shocked if Naughty Dog took 8 years to make this game. But like, knocking on the door of like it taking another 2 or 3 years. I think like we might be right in that window, just given how long they've been working on it already. That being said, if they were working on it for 4 years, it's kind of shocking we didn't get a little more gameplay, Like maybe it's not as finished as I'm giving it credit for,
Yeah.
So
it looks like some melee combat with this cool laser sword thing that she has.
Which had like the synth wavy type of like the music, like the cool. Waves on it, like
really good design. The way it like the things came out around the edge of the sword.
Like a cool jacket too. She like throws on a cool bounty hunting jacket.
Got that Akira jacket.
Yeah, it's red. Yeah, it looks like a red Akira jacket.
What if it is a 2026 game? We could be looking at GTA 6, Onimusha, and this game.
Oh my god!
Same year,
Yeah.
Jeez, I mean, if it's not open world and it's not jumping around to planets,
I don't think it'll be open world, right?
I don't think it'll be open world. I think they're going to take a standard approach.
Yeah,
maybe open area like Last of Us, or I guess parts of Uncharted 4.
Uncharted for sure.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So explore around. A couple years, I don't know. I could see within the next couple of years it coming out. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
Could be, but it was a really strong end to a overall very good Game Awards. There's very little.
Tease too. He goes, I do have one more thing. After he said one more thing, I'm like, you
love the one more thing. I love the one more thing.
Love it.
You always gotta have the one more thing. So yeah, there was a lot. It was a really good show overall. I like the way that they were able to spread out the winners. I think Astrobot's very deserving. Is it our podcast favorite? I don't know. We'll find out in about a month or so. But I do think it's deserving. Just like if Metaphor or Final Fantasy VII had one, like I think they're all deserving if they win the Game Awards.
The only one the speech that the Larians, the guy, because I like that he has the previous year's winner come out and give the award. I think that's actually really.
Yeah, I like that.
It's like the Masters with golf, where you have the last year's winner put the green jacket on the next guy.
Yeah, there you go. But that speech was also just. Like he just said all the things he needed to say.
I didn't know what he was saying at first. I was like, "What are we doing?"
Yeah, it was.
The setup of the bit. I'm like, okay. And then he starts talking, and I go, "Oh, okay, I'm an asshole." Okay,
I see what you're doing. I
was
being
judgy. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So overall, really good. I'm curious what you all think. Let us know what were your favorite announcements, and do you think the winners were at least somewhat right? Which ones do you not like? I'm curious to hear what you all think. But yeah, I think that's good for this episode. I've got a couple of games I want to play before we wrap up the year, kind of like quizzes about the year for you guys before we get into our Game of the Year discussions. Probably looking at the New Year's weekend or after that to record those. We got basically, guys, you got 2 more weeks to finish your homework is what I'm saying.
Well, that's not good.
Right.
And then we're gonna dive into it, at least for the first set of categories. You got about 2 more weeks before we start doing some of this stuff. If you want, we can do like each category its own separate week. We'll do this for 16 weeks, and
sure,
let's do it. Yeah. It'll be half the year
really
next year. It's just us going over last year.
Really
first week, best mobile game. That's all we're talking about, since that's what Dan likes now.
4 hours. 4 hours. So Fantasian wins, basically.
Yeah, basically. But anyway, thank you guys for listening and watching. Appreciate you. We'll see you next time. Bye.